Oh, this fucking cunt.
Welcome to the Yellow Brick
Douglas.
Road. I am Jordan, and today we're going to react to Coleman Hughes debating Glenn Greenwald on, I guess, a number of topics. I assume it's mainly going to be surrounding Israel and the U.S. war with Iran and all that stuff. But first, don't forget to share, support, hopefully donate to all the links in the description box. Also, please check out the Discord link if you want to join that. We're in that Discord right now. All opinions are welcome. And obviously, everything I say to you, everything I show you will be linked in that same description box, which is just this video. So you could find it on the free press. But you know what? I like linking stuff so I can find it later. See, I did that today. I looked at an old video and looked for a video that I reacted to. And it was gone, but still, at least had like an opportunity, right? You know what I'm saying? Anyways. All right, let's just play this. Glenn Greenwald. And yes, I will skip around topics. The one we're going to start with here is. Where are we at? The IHRA definition, campus speech controversies, and allegations of. What? Chilled? Chilled
Where is this
criticism of
guy
Israel? Okay.
on scale of 1 to 10 on the Douglas Murray scale? Where is this guy?
Uh, I'd go with. All right, if 10 is like full blown Douglas Murray, this guy is probably
Right.
a 7.5. But the thing is, he does it very dispassionately versus like Douglas Murray, who's very like, what are you talking about? This guy will not get animated. He will not get demonstrative. He won't be emotional about it. He's very robotic about it, and in a way, makes it sound like it's the rational answer to things. That's why he gets a 7.5, right? Because it's about the psychological game being played, right? When you're doing your propaganda, you gotta be, you gotta play the psychological game. You can't just, you know, because Douglas Murray will be seen as like outright, oh my god, Douglas Murray is so over the top in favor of Israel or whatever the fuck, right? Versus this guy, where it's like, man, this guy, listen, I think he's wrong, but he's very rational, he's very sober about it, he's very calm, right? So, but either way, he's still full of shit, in my humble opinion. I don't believe this guy is being for real. I don't think he believes what he believes. I think he's full of shit. But either way, let's get into this. Now, the IHRA idea is like, I think, the definition of anti-Semitism. Of course, we're starting there. Let's give him a chance. Here is Glenn Greenwald versus Coleman Hughes debate. Israel stuff. Here we go. And this is the big one, right? Does Israel control U.S. foreign policy? I want to hear these answers. Here we go.
Before we get to Iran and wars, we can start with the topic of free speech, because this is something where I think you and I share a common philosophy, which is that we are both basically free speech absolutists. I think you identify with that label. I pretty much do.
Mm-hmm.
And you've put your money and in a lot of ways your life where your mouth is on that topic. You've been an ardent defender of free speech, a very unpopular free speech, whether it's Edward Snowden or countless other examples. And I commend you for that. And it's an issue that's important to me too. However, in preparation for this podcast, I've been watching your podcast with Tucker Carlson recently, and the overall impression given by those podcasts is that we have actually lost free speech with respect to criticism of Israel. And so that's a narrative that I think is totally blown out of proportion. And so I guess I want to start there. First, talk about maybe why you care about free speech and why you think it's under threat on the topic of anti-Semitism and criticism of Israel.
Later stuff.
So just quickly, I just want to observe that I think to state that we have completely lost free speech when it comes to Israel is much too far as an overstatement, much too binary. Typically, the way free speech erosions work is they tend to be progressive and gradual and incremental. And for reasons I'll explain in a minute, I think there's absolutely very valid concern in that regard in the United States when it comes to the ability to criticize Israel.
And the second you take away anything in the idea of free speech, isn't that free speech is gone? Like if I say you can't say ball anymore or you go to jail, and doesn't that mean that word ball is now off the fucking table for free speech? So therefore there is no such thing as free speech anymore.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, well, in the, I guess, social sense of things, right? Not in the actual form.
Right.
Like,
If I
actual
say
free speech is actually like you can't stop anyone from that, right? But in the social side idea of it, sure.
Like the idea we can't say the curse words in court. There goes free speech already.
Yeah.
Like that's contempt of court if you say any of the chosen curse words.
Yeah. In a way, yeah, I agree. But then one thing might not be about stopping free speech. I think you know this pretty well, right? Where it's like someone being like belligerent, towards like it isn't about your speech. It's about like why are you doing this? It's probably to disrupt something or fuck something up, right? Thus, it's not even about free speech. Of
That's
why
free speech. That's free speech in the sense of I want to disrupt this thing.
There's speech, but there's also like, so yes,
Yeah.
that is not free speech, but if you
Yes, it is. I want to
no,
disrupt
I'm
this
saying
thing.
like it does break free speech. What you're saying, that's fine, but like I think the concept of free speech is also like on another level. It's about like can you express your ideas, right? As opposed to like can I just say incoherent words and just kind of do that because I want to, right? Are you blocked from sharing ideas? It's like a different level of like the purpose as well.
Yeah. But all right, let's continue. And I think this I want to hear this conversation here about this topic because if you get a sense of like where they're at in regards to stuff like this, it can maybe give you a sense of where they're going to go with foreign policy stuff. Where it is like I'm sorry, I keep hearing it more and more. So like, it's Israel. They did it. They dragged poor Donald Trump, this victim. He got dragged into this event or this decision making. Yeah, but like, let's let it play. Just what's way. By the way, I think I already understand. I think what Glenn Greenwald and what Coleman Hughes might say. It's just more so for the sake of people understanding in context, if you will. So here we go.
In general, I think, people have kind of disputed and debated about my political ideology and leanings since I began writing about politics 20 plus years ago. And I've always kind of
Nobody knew
avoided
you
every
until
label except for
fucking
civil
Edward
libertarian. And along that, I think accompanying that
I knew of him
is free
before
speech
Edward Snowden.
absolutist, which I do embrace as you correctly surmised. And the reason is that I think what that strain has in common is just a general distrust of what human beings individually or as a governing faction will do if they have too much power, if there aren't sufficient constraints on their power. And I just don't trust human beings to declare truth and falsity in some absolute sense that entitles them to prohibit certain views from being expressed on the grounds that they're false or that the ideas are dangerous, because our intellectual history as human beings is the gospel of one generation becomes the discredited truth of the next in pretty much every field. And the potential for abuse, if you give people the right to regulate speech or decide which ideas can and can't be expressed, is so high that whatever benefits that you can identify from providing that power in a particular case or at a particular moment, to me is vastly outweighed by the dangers. As far as Israel is concerned, this is not a new development. It's not something that happened after October 7th. I can go back and show you so many examples of professors being fired or losing tenure, people in media being fired, because of their criticism of Israel. In fact, I could make the case to you that that has been the most common form of what then became known as cancel culture, where people have had their
Oh my
careers ruined,
God.
their reputations destroyed, job losses as a result of criticizing Israel. There have been all kinds of campus controversies around banning pro-Palestinian groups for a long
Sure.
time that I think is at odds with our conception of free speech. And, you know, I did find a lot of common cause with conservatives or people with whom I don't necessarily have ideological agreement, because I thought there was a lot of censorship, including by the government, against right-wing speech, against people that dissented on COVID and Ukraine and race issues. And I was vehemently opposed to that for a long time. After October 7th, my concern really became the attacks on free speech with regard to Israel. And I'll just give you, from me, one of the most disturbing examples, which is that, you know, for as long as I can remember, the American right in this country was opposed to hate speech codes, both in general and especially on college campuses. The idea that you can't express certain views, you'll be punished for certain views if those views are deemed sufficiently hateful or bigoted, and obviously suppress debate in all sorts of ways. And one of the very first things the Trump administration did upon getting into office in the second term, supported by and funded by a lot of very, very pro-Israel billionaires, was start bullying college campuses, some of our leading universities, to adopt a wildly expanded conception of hate speech codes, where faculty members could be fired or students could be expelled or otherwise disciplined for expressing a very wide range of views with respect to Israel or particular Jewish individuals.
Okay, Glenn's wrong about this. It is true that they were definitely targeting from universities to direct students, right? In regards to people with visas or green cards. But that was underway under in his first administration, Glenn. And I'm surprised you didn't know that. I'm actually surprised about that one, that you didn't know that. Once again, they did a whole panel on it, right? With Alan Dershowitz and these like Jewish leaders or you know, pro-Israel leaders in the U.S., right? They did a whole thing about it, about taking away college, fundings for colleges because of quote unquote anti-Semitism on campuses. And even back then, Ben Shapiro was going over like, well, these are the actual definitions of anti-Semitism, and there's some stupid fucking shit in there. But that was underway, once again, underway in the first Trump administration. And when I hear, like, not that I hold this guy in such high regards, Glenn Greenwald, but like, when you hear that from him, someone who's supposed to be like, that people perceive as like astute and they're knowledgeable and they know about these topics, right? When they're perceived that way, but they don't know that shit, it's kind of scary, actually, to me, right? It's okay, like, if someone could be ignorant on something, that's fine. But if you watched a lot of the movements of someone like Glenn Greenwald or Jimmy Dore, or people that are not supposed to be exactly pro-Trump, Dave Smiths, right? The way these guys talked, you know, the guys who challenge power, right? I guess they did miss the first administration, which is why they look so silly after, in a way, protecting the egos of MAGA fans and I guess of the Trump character himself, and now having to like backstep on that it's kind of all kind of crazy looking. I'm once again completely surprised he didn't know that was happening in the first administration. That one is actually wreckage. They didn't know that, but okay. He said it specifically, right? He just said, like, well, especially, sorry, in the second administration, he started doing this. I'm like, well, he was doing that in the first. All right, here we go.
Just to give you an example, under this expanded definition that was created by Israel, adopted into the criminal law of the EU, called the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, the International Holocaust Remembrance Act definition, you're not allowed to say that Israel is a racist endeavor as its founding or as a country or as an idea, but you're allowed to say that about the United States. You're allowed to say it about any other country on the planet, just not about Israel. You're not allowed to compare the Israeli government's actions to the actions of the Nazis, even though you can do that about American wars or Russian wars or any other country on earth. And I can go down the list, all of these special speech
This is what I
codes that
love
were created
commenters telling me
specifically
about.
to
You don't know anything
constrain
about
one's
what's going on
ability
with Israel,
to criticize Israel. It wasn't about the protest. It doesn't govern conduct. It's not only about guest students, it's about all students on American campus. And there are a lot of different erosions like that on this issue that I could similarly describe for you.
Yeah, so let's talk about the IHRA definition, because this is an area where, well, you and I have some overlap and some agreement. So to start with where I agree, everything you said about the generic defense of free speech, I agreed with every word, and it was stated beautifully. When it comes to the IHRA definition, people can look this up. The definition itself is fine, but the examples it gives, many of the examples are like, maybe a third of the examples are just critiques of Israel, right? They're not, oh, I hate you because you're a Jew, right? That would be bigotry towards Jews. It's, I think Israel is racist. If you say that, you should totally be allowed to say that. Like that I completely agree that should not be included in any campus speech definition of anti-Semitism, and it's a shame that these administrations kowtowed to the Trump administration on that score. But the reality is, just because this policy exists on paper doesn't mean it's actually enforced on campuses, right? Like when Columbia and Harvard adopted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism,
wait. Wasn't there like people fired for this stuff? Wasn't there people being threatened of being deported over this stuff? And there was threats of fucking funding.
The Harvard principal or whatever, or dean, I think it's dean, got replaced because of DEI speech. No, it was Israel topic. That's why Trump said that they were going to investigate. So then Harvard removed the dean.
I don't think it was the dean, and it was a lady, right? But I don't know if was she dean? I thought she was like maybe.
Is there a CEO to the school?
Like a president or something like that of the school? Fuck. Fuck. Like Seb's told me about that.
You remember in general the story.
Yes. Yeah.
It was over Israel. It wasn't over the hate speech stuff. Besides Israel, it was about Israel.
And there's probably a number of other officials or professors or faculty or whatever part of other colleges that have lost their jobs because they're not willing to bend the knee in that sense, right? Once again, that happened in Trump's first administration as well.
I don't remember any of that, but I'll take your word for it so we can move on.
I've played the video several times. It is what it is.
Right. I'm saying I just don't remember any of it in the first term. Plenty of it in the second term.
Well, yeah. The second term, he's like, guys, I'm telling you who the fuck I am. Here it is. No one's listening to me. Trump just wants to be heard. Like, listen, guys, I'm fucking corrupt. Here. No one understood this in the first term? What the fuck? All right. Here we go.
And it's actually enforced on campuses, right? Like when Columbia and Harvard adopted the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, the Columbia Spectator and the Harvard Crimson, they immediately publish articles essentially saying exactly the phrases that are proscribed in the definition to make the point that A, they should be able to say it, which they're right about. And secondly, to emphasize the point that, like, obviously they knew they were not going to be disciplined. They weren't disciplined. It's very easy to, like, if you were to survey the campus newspapers of all of these campuses, there's last I checked, there were like 30 that have nominally adopted the IHRA definition. It would be 10 to 1 or 100 to 1 the articles published in the campus newspapers that are critical of Israel, calling the war a genocide or an apartheid state, as opposed to articles defending it, right? So, you add to that the fact that the pro-Israel students on these campuses are, they're outnumbered 5 to 1, 10 to 1. There are all sorts of examples from an organization like FIRE, where, recently Columbia University law students Their student supporting Israel club wasn't recognized on campus. I think because of it was either because of a Facebook post or because, it's because they adopted the IHRA definition as a club. Obviously, a club can have whatever definition it wants of anything, right? Like I can start the Black Students Club and be like, I think racism is when you tap your feet 3 times and turn around. I'll get rubber stamped and approved. But the pro-Israel students face a student body that sometimes has power over them through student senates and has the power to basically discriminate against them as a club. It happened to SSI at Duke University as well recently. They didn't get officially recognized because of a Facebook post that was pro-Israel.
Now, although, yeah, like those kids should be able to say what they want too. But if you try to read the psychology of the matter, it's like one side was overbearingly shitting on another side, right? For a very long time. It's almost like the culture war stuff, right? With like, gay or trans activism or like in film or TV, right? Where it's like you're held down for so long and then all of a sudden, boom, now you can say what you want. And they might go as far as to push down the other side, right? That's probably what's happening on these campuses. These kids probably found out that not those kids, because they're new. They're fucking 18, 19, 20 years old versus like, people that from yesteryear that would shut down BDS protests, that would scream anti-Semitism at every little thing thrown in their direction, right? So because certain people were held back for so long or held down for so long, and then these kids learn about that because they see these guys, right? Like, yo, push them down now. Let's get, like, in a way, it's like revenge. Let's push them down because these guys were trying to stop this stuff, whatever years ago. I'm saying I recognize why someone might do that, but it's nowhere near the idea of being right morally, in my humble opinion. But, people are going to do people things until they fucking learn, right? Or until it happens to them. But, all right, let's play. Here we go.
They're going to do people things after that, too.
Yeah, but that's why there's the smart ones that come around and say, isn't that stupid? But then again, who's listening, right? Let's play. Here we go.
Exactly.
There's a case recently,
Nobody's
the Davidson
listening.
College administration
No,
accused
you're
the
not.
pro-Israel students of harassment, the pro-Israel club of harassment for handing out flyers.
Because I wouldn't
There
listen
was
to
another case recently, like just a couple days ago, where the Catholic, I
realistic
think it was actually
scenario
Catholic
you
University of
described.
America,
What I
where the
would do.
pro-Israel club wanted to invite
I'm trying to help kids out,
speakers
man.
for an event,
You're one of them.
and the university required them to invite a speaker
Special,
on the other side of
learning.
the issue, which is a requirement not leveled at any other kind of club. So my question for you is absolutely there are many cases of pro-Palestinian voices, their speech being chilled, and you've you could talk
Sure.
about with the Professor Steve Salaita. You bring up these examples pretty often. When I see an organization like FIRE, which is the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, when I go to their website, I can guarantee that they're going to make complaints about people's free speech being violated in a way that is neutral to the issue. They're going to have all the examples of pro-Palestinian voices that have been chilled, and they're going to have all the examples of pro-Israel students, pro-Israel clubs whose events have been shut down, who and so forth. And I'm not quite sure about that when it comes to you. Do you see yourself as neutrally advocating for free speech, the violations of free speech as on
Shit
both
his
sides of
ears,
this
freaking me
issue,
out.
or consistently taking the one side?
Well, I mean, as you mentioned at the start, I have often, at the risk or damage to my own career or standing with allies and defended free speech of the views that I find most repugnant, including when I was a lawyer before I even became a journalist, when I was defending white nationalists or neo-Nazis and the attempt to ward off attempts to curb their speech, knowing that it would then be incursions into other types of speech. I was one of the earliest people objecting to the first kinds of big tech censorship of people like Milo Yiannopoulos and Alex Jones, knowing that it would then lead to others. I've defended people on the right with whom I have very little in common politically for a long time.
They're trying to put me in
on
jail,
this issue,
Glenn.
if you
Damn
show
it.
me an example of, and I'll take your word, I'm not as familiar with these cases, and I'll explain to you why. I would obviously vehemently condemn if any kind of club or group at a college, university is being discriminated against because of their pro-Israel views. I mean, and I don't think anyone who has ever listened to me even minimally doubts that. But if you say to me, have you focused more on the suppression of pro-Palestinian speech? I would say absolutely yes. And I'll give you the reason why. Like, these examples that you just cited are individual examples at colleges. And I'll just assume that, you presented every incident fully accurately, that there's no other mitigating factors. And these are individual examples of suppression of free speech on the part of people who support Israel. But what I'm talking about is something on a completely different scale. I'm talking about the federal government forcing our leading universities to adopt codes that enable faculty members to be fired and students to be expelled for expressing what you yourself have acknowledged is a very common range of views about Israel that ought to be permitted. This isn't just one individual dispute at Davidson College. This is the United States government run by a president who was funded in large part by billionaires who are highly supportive of Israel, who did so in order to have a pro-Israel agenda, imposing speech codes on American colleges, our leading colleges and universities. And you can say, oh, some people still get away with saying the things that are on the prohibited list. And I have no doubt that they're not enforcing it 100%. It's a very new development. The Trump administration has only been in power a year. You're talking about newly enacted speech codes over.
Once again, his first administration, that the precedent was set already, and probably even before that. But that's the last, before this new year, this new term, the last known incident for me. But here we go.
The last year or so,
it's unfortunate.
It'd be like
people don't know
saying,
that. It's
oh, I
crazy.
can point to some
Can I
people
play that?
in 2020 and 2021
That's
expressing
fun.
dissent about Tony Fauci's views of COVID or the World Health Organization. Therefore, look, it's not really a big deal that there was censorship because some people got away with saying it and weren't actually punished. I think, obviously, when the U.S. government and our major administrations at universities conspire or collaborate to impose speech codes, the danger is that it can be enforced. And the mere fact that it exists is a serious chilling effect. If you're a professor and you know your job is at risk, you can be fired even if you have tenure for expressing those views. Of course, that's going to make you think twice. In fact, there's a Jewish professor of genocide studies at Columbia who every year includes in her curriculum books by the world-renowned 20th century philosopher Hannah Arendt, who was very anti-Zionist and says a lot of the things that the IHRA
This guy sounds like a
definition now
faggot, Jordan.
precludes. And she basically said, I'm either going to have to change my curriculum or leave
You sound like a
Columbia,
child,
because that is
Harrison.
something that you're going to take into account. As far
No,
as
he
fire
sounds
is
like a faggot.
concerned,
I'm not.
they
I'm not
absolutely,
cool
they're, I
with
love
this guy.
fire.
Baby
To
boy,
me, they're
listen
what
to my
the
baby boy. Go back on
He
mute.
is a gay.
Go
He
back,
is a faggot.
go back on
He's
mute, my
factually
little
a
baby
faggot.
boy. Yo, my other little child, please go. Just mute yourself. Here we go.
No,
So
Glenn
used to
Greenwald is
be, I've
homosexual.
said that 1,000 times. I'm highly supportive of fire for exactly the reason that you just said. At the same time, if you go and look at fire, and this is well before October 7th, they were, even though they were
Child.
created in defense of the ability of
I do this for
conservative students to
Jesus.
speak without being censored, because there was so much censorship of
Child.
conservative students on college campuses,
Nowhere near it.
they were at least equally active in the defense of pro-Palestinian speech from being censored, even though their executive director and several other founders and key donors are Jewish, are Zionists. They have a very free speech, a principled view of free speech. I think the time that I saw fire the most rhetorically aggressive, and again, this goes to what I'm trying to say, is that talking about something on a completely different scale, was when Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who actually went to Israel to sign legislation affecting the free speech rights of people in Florida.
Yeah.
When it came to Israel, he actually went to Israel to sign a bill governing the rights of Floridians. In 2024, he ordered that all campus groups of Palestine for Justice be closed at every state university. And the reason he did that, he said, was because he believed they were providing material support to terrorist groups. He didn't mean they were furnishing money to them or providing arms to them. He meant that the effect of their speech, saying we should stop the war in Gaza, that the Israel are the aggressors, that this advances the interest of Hamas and Hezbollah and other terrorist groups. And of course, you can't have free speech be the primary or let alone sole basis for accusing people of material support for terrorism. And Fire said that this was one of the most aggressive, full frontal assaults on free speech by the government in years. And they urged college administrators to reject and refuse to adhere to Governor DeSantis's claims. And just one last thing, Coleman, and again, I can point to so many examples, like Norman Finkelstein, was approved by the tenure committee at DePaul, but because Alan Dershowitz was on a jihad against him for being supposedly too anti-Israel, he pressured using his public platform and a lot of very high-funded groups, DePaul University to withdraw the offer of tenure. As you mentioned, Steve Salacia, same thing at the University of Illinois, who actually sued the University of Illinois from it. You're talking about government pressure. There's not a very well-organized pro-Palestinian lobby in the United States. There's a very well-organized and well-funded pro-Israel lobby in the United States. That's why both parties have been so steadfastly pro-Israel. And so I think we're talking about a very different scale. And I would also say the argument that you began kind of making, which is like, oh, pro-Israel students on college campuses are outnumbered. They're kind of in a weaker position and they therefore need some protection. I know you're not endorsing these speech codes, but it really does, it is redolent of the left-wing argument about Black people or trans people or gay people or Muslims on college campuses or these oppressed,
I wasn't saying they
marginalized
should have
groups
speech codes
outnumber.
as a result.
I know you're not. I'm just saying that depiction, you're very clear you're not in favor of these speech codes. I don't want to suggest otherwise. I'm just saying that was like a depiction that was a little bit redolent of that to me. So it could be that pro-Israel groups or students are being in individual cases suppressed, but the scale of the suppression and the censorship, and I'll just add one more quick example.
Real quick, that little statement, like the appeal to, once again, for catnip for silly people, right? Of like DEI and culture war stuff. Like that's what Glenn is appealing to. In regards to like his statements right there, he's appealing to that. Like, hey, you guys sound like just like Michael Tracy.
It's called being fair on both sides.
Just like Michael Tracy talking about Epstein. Like, hey, aren't you guys like against the Me Too stuff? You're doing it to Epstein right now. Like he's kind of like Glenn's doing the same thing in regards to, oh, the victims on campus. Aren't you guys against that? Not saying Coleman Hughes is quote unquote right leaning or anything like that, but like Glenn has spent some time appealing to that crowd. In my humble opinion,
should he not?
He shouldn't appeal.
Is he not? Is that not accurate that happened?
Of what, self-proclaimed victimhood? Sure, that's not the point. I'm saying
no. Actual punish. Was there not school teachers that got fired for not bending the knee to the DEI shit? The hate speech shit of 2016.
In ye old year of 2016. I'm sure that happened, but once again, my point was about like why is Glenn saying it, and I think it has something to do with catnip for bots. In my humble opinion, it's more about his motives than his words.
It's an attempt. It's an attempt at fair coverage, is my opinion.
Okay, you're a Glenn Greenwald fan like that? Okay.
No.
So you don't look into his work then? Why are you saying that?
I've seen some of his work, and
you agree? You agree with the
what?
faggot, as you said? You agree with the faggot? You said you understand his motives, right? That's what you're saying? Oh, I get his motives. His motives there is to be.
I didn't say that. I didn't say I know.
What were you saying?
I said it seems to be he's making an attempt at fair coverage, like as in the other side too.
And my argument was, I think it's somewhat catnip for a lot of bots.
I guess that's the way you would say fair coverage, is call it catnip.
No, it's holy shit. I'm moving on. Okay. All right, moving on. There we go.
Just to really
This guy does sound
underscore what
like
I'm
I'm
Go ahead, Harrison. What's up?
No, I'm just saying. I think this guy might be gay.
He is gay.
He is
He
is
probably
one
smells
of
like
those
poo-poo.
got married to a man people's.
Yo, listen. This is a side note. I'm gonna whisper so they can't hear me. Don't be them. Don't be them, guys. Don't be them.
Don't be gay. Yeah.
Hopefully you hear
Don't
me.
be gay.
He just called himself
Yeah.
gay.
Don't be gay.
He just called himself gay. Anyways, don't be like them, guys. Don't do it. It's not healthy. And they don't know Christ either. All right,
Yeah.
here we go.
Don't be gay like
in terms
Jordan.
of where the power centers lie. In 32, 34 states, might be 36
My children.
states, mostly red states, but not
I
only, and
failed
I
you,
know
my
you heard me
children.
talk about there's a Tucker. There's a law in place that says if you want to have a contract with the state government, you have to certify that you do not support or participate in the government boycott of Israel. You can boycott the United States and other states. You can boycott North Carolina. You can boycott Norway or Indonesia or Peru. You just can't boycott this one country, Israel. And I actually profiled a woman who had sterling job performances in Texas, where she was a speech pathologist in Austin School District, but she supported a boycott of Israel and she got fired. This is unbelievable that as citizens of the United States, if you want a contract with the state, you have to certify you don't participate in a boycott or support a boycott of a foreign country. There's no similar laws for Palestinians because the power center in our governments and in our financial private sector power centers are obviously far more pro-Israel than anything else.
I think there's some credence there, but I think there's other things you
Pause.
can't quite say because it could even be worse than fired or expelled. You can get like arrested for certain. I think there's other things you can't say out loud, but that's just my opinion on things. But but the point he's saying, I think, is correct. That does happen. Go ahead.
Well, he finished that with, you can't say that about Palestinians. No, you can't say that about Israel. And then he gave the example of, but there's no law saying you can't talk poorly about Palestine. He should have just left it at, there's no law against you doing this to any country anywhere in the world.
Okay,
Like-
but I think he's trying to say a bigger idea is like, hey, well, there is no Palestinian coalition that has influence in the White House, so thus there's not going to be some Palestinian version of this. I think that's his main point is about the influence. So he's talking even above the free speech topic. It's more so like these guys have access, and
That's wrong.
that's wrong.
Because there is a coalition for Palestinians on the left. Like that's what
No, he
was
means
the nickname
he means
for
in
the
the
four
White
bitches?
House. They're not as organized, so they don't have it in the White House, really. Right? They don't have
But
actually.
there's
in
still
the
a
power.
coalition in the government.
There is.
There's still a coalition trying to do that. Yeah, what are the four bitches' nicknames? AOC, Ilhan Omar, the other two.
The squad that we're going with.
Forgot the squad. Yeah, the squad. That is a coalition
And what is their?
that is fighting for.
Once again, he said one thing is more. His point was like they exist, but there's more organized version that gets more things done for their own ideas or whatever, their own motives. They get more concrete things done for them than other people.
This
other groups
guy only likes to
It's smart.
organize things in his butthole because he's gay.
Okay. Harrison, I'm going to turn you down until I finish this video, just so you know.
Why are you watching Glenda without Sebs, bro? It's kind of fucked up.
I'm just saying, he's gay. No one believes me. This guy's a fat.
Don't worry, Harrison, I turned you down, bud. It's okay. Say what you want. Rant away.
While Jordan's making a video about free speech, he has silenced somebody in his conversation.
I've stated who I am and what I do. It's unfortunate you can't read that.
Exactly. Exactly. You are who you are.
So are you, buddy?
You want to hear something funny, Josh? You weren't here. I said one thing. I said a couple things that were actual assessments of Dubster, and now he's in pride. He's seeing red again, and he can't help it. He can't help himself.
It's happened quite a lot recently. That's funny
It's
to say that.
it's
So.
2026. I think black people are the slave owners now, man. Like I own a slave. His name's Dubster. He's my slave. I can move him left. I can move him right. I can make him do backflips when I
Yo.
want to.
Did you hear that? Jordan's pro-slavery. Jordan's now
I can move him whatever direction I
pro-slavery
want to
'cause he
move him in,
thinks he
and that's
was a whitey.
sad. Now,
Imagine when something fucking shakes him, bro. Who
Jordan
knows?
is pro-slavery. You heard it here.
I am a benevolent slave owner, so
He thinks
I
he
don't
is a
own.
slave owner.
I try not to own him, but he just does it himself. He like follows me around. I'm like, yo, you're free, bro. Leave me alone. He's like, no, Dad. Anyways,
That's
Are you-
it.
Are you glitching?
let's hear.
You might want to check
Nah.
if you're glitching.
That's your end, I think. What auto tuning?
No one's listening. No. You're good.
Yeah, I hear him. So I think he might be it. Whatever. All right, let's hear Coleman's response, and then I want to really get to the topic I really want to get at, which is something I've been focusing on quite a bit lately, which is, in my opinion, once again, Israel does horrendous shit in foreign policy and their own domestic policies probably, and brainwashing that happens over there. But to put the blame strictly and like very much so focused towards them is crazy to me. And I think Glenn might do that in regards to the Iran topic, war with Iran. And I'm curious what he says. I hope he's smarter than I think he is. I hope he's smarter than that. But let's find out. Or sorry, let's hear this Coleman response to the free speech stuff, and then we'll get to that topic. Here we go.
Okay, so a few points to make in response. I think some of the important context when we talk about what's going on campuses is that, especially prior to October 7th, there was this massive double standard in how different groups were treated. And I think you and I may agree on this. So, for instance, when I was at Columbia, I graduated 2020, there was a case where this white kid named Julian came
you're a
out
baby.
and he basically said, hey, I like white people. Like, I love white civilization. I don't hate anyone else. I just love being white. So he literally didn't attack any other group. I think it was like a dumb expression of ethnic pride, but he's totally allowed to say it. Instantly banned from Barnard's campus. Then you have Kalani James
Which is
at
stupid.
Columbia a couple years later, where he makes a social media post saying, literally, if I fight a Zionist, I'm going to fight to kill. He gets pulled into a hearing because obviously you can't say that on a campus. You can't threaten to kill people. They give him many chances to walk it back, but he doubles and triples down. Yep. If I fight a Zionist, I'm going to fight to kill. Zionists should not be on campus. You know, violence and murder is quite often justified. Nothing happens to him until the story becomes public, and then he does get banned, right? But that hearing was live streamed within Columbia, and nothing was done about it because for a very long time, college campuses have had a bizarre double standard where the slightest speech that would be offensive to African Americans, Hispanics, LGBTQ, and so forth, or women, is treated as discipline worthy. But really, the groups that were not protected under those codes were basically whites, men, and Jews, and
What?
And Christians.
and Christians.
Jews were
And,
protected.
So
In what?
Jews were
wait,
protected
wait.
under the
I
left.
think you and I are.
In what time period is he talking about? Is he saying 2020? Is that what he's saying? Is that what he's saying? I don't agree with that either. I don't think. As far as I understand, I don't agree with that. I would think like what maybe after October 7th, to where you'll start looking more at what's happening over there, and especially with Gaza. There was
BDS.
like a shift.
When did BDS start? That started before. BDS started before.
BDS has been around for
October
a
7th.
very long time. Yes, a very long time. And those guys were being canned and police called when they protest, on and so forth.
The left protected them. Like the government left protected Israel in that sense. Like you can't
Yeah.
do this. That kind of shit was going on from the left controlled government.
Well, from the Democratic part, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like they're no different.
Well, I'm saying
Right.
when Biden was president. Yeah, during the time Biden was president. That's what I mean by the left. As in the left was in the administration.
Yeah, but even before Biden, that's the same things were going on, right? Same protections
I don't know.
for certain ideas and expulsions and firings for the other side of the idea of these ideas of like BDS, right? So like
I don't know. I thought I only started hearing about BDS during the Biden time, so I couldn't say anything before that. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying I'm not familiar.
oh, there's whole documentaries like there's a famous one from Al Jazeera called The Lobby, right? Which is a relatively famous documentary in regards to from astroturfing on college campuses to people saying boycott, divest, sanction in regards to Israel.
Okay.
There's like products that
Yeah,
Israel
I'm not
has been
disputing.
around.
I'm just saying
I'm
I'm
not
not
arguing with
familiar.
you. I'm just saying it so people
Okay.
recognize it or hear about it.
Okay.
That is
So both sides have been protecting the Jewish angle of the hate speech idea. So that's ignorance on this guy's just saying that.
Well, it's not the Jewish angle. Once again, plenty of the people. There's plenty of people that are that were in BDS back then, or making documentaries, or making news stories, are Jewish. It wasn't the Jewish angle. It's more of the pro-Israel,
Oh, BDS.
anti-Israel, Zionist, anti-Zionist was kind of the ideas going on. Does that make sense? Or
boycott Israel. I fucking inflame.
I know you're
Okay,
silly with
yes.
your words. I get it. Trying to be casual about it.
Israel.
I'm just saying, just in case, just in case someone may not recognize. Well, I mean, I think you do mean. Wait, you do mean Jewish, right? Or do you mean nation state?
Well, BDS in particular was not against Jews; it was against Israel.
Yeah, and mainstream
So
politicians
that's-
did not like that. They didn't like BDS.
I mean, an area.
Yeah, Noam Chomsky didn't like BDS.
Right, on both sides. Yeah, both sides, both political sides.
Yeah, the party name. Although just technically speaking, right, different team names. I think same motives personally, but that's another story. All right, let's
Uniparty. Yeah.
let's play with this. He's saying people that were left out of consideration for protection. I guess he's meaning like the more modern idea. Maybe that's what he means. But let's apply. Here we go.
And so, from my point of view, I think you and I are more on the free speech absolutist end of this, meaning in my ideal world, you'd be able to say whatever you wanted on a campus, essentially up to barring incitements of violence. But if that's just not actually plausible, given how sensitive college campuses are and the culture are, then the second best alternative is to have some kind of speech code regime that actually treats every group the same, right? And so that didn't exist. And I think a lot of Jews and Zionists accurately detected that and reacted politically after October 7th. And that's what you're seeing. But that's like very necessary context to understand where these sorts of policies came from, even though I agree with you that they're overly broad. Now, secondly, on this point about the lobby, I think that
make us all victims.
When we talk about the lobby, like the anti-BDS laws, these are stupid laws. I agree. Like, if you're contracting with the federal government, you shouldn't have to check a box saying you have any foreign policy position. It's stupid. But to me, the way that I've seen you and Tucker and others like Dave Smith I had on the podcast talk about the lobby as if it's this extremely powerful entity, when most of what I see the lobby has achieved demonstrates its pretty limited power and its limited efficacy. For instance, if you talk to any lobbyist, and I have talked to lobbyists, not on Israel issues, but on other issues, just like criminal justice lobbyists, they'll tell you way easier to get things passed at the state level. There's very few veto points. You've got to persuade a couple people. And if there aren't concentrated stakeholders on the other side of
Sure,
the
it's not
issue, you
majority
can
report
basically
here.
get it through. So if you look at where anti-BDS laws have been successful, it's only at the state level. They've tried, I'm sure they've lobbied Congress to pass an anti-BDS law at the federal level, but they failed. And what does that failure tell you empirically? Well, it tells you about the limits of the lobby's power. We're meant to believe that this lobby is so powerful that it's gotten us into quote unquote several wars, but it's not even
This is
powerful
where, this
enough
is where I want to go.
to
Okay.
pass a federal contracting law, right?
Are you
And there's
saying they
many
did
other
lobby the
examples I could
Congress
give.
for that? Because
I don't know.
don't-
I don't know.
yeah, I don't think that's true for reasonable explanation. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry. To interrupt.
It's my assumption. It's my assumption, but maybe they haven't. No, but I think anti-BDS laws actually there have been bills before Congress. That's a fact, and they've failed. That I know, or they've died in committee and so on and so forth. So I don't know where those would come from if not from the lobby, but maybe you can clarify that later. Let me just finish this point though, which is I think, if you look at the actual scale of the Israel lobby, it's a relatively small lobby. Like, as I said to Dave Smith, the entire pro-Israel lobby, not just AIPAC, the entire pro-Israel
Man, this guy's
lobby
dumb. Can't
was
listen to him.
outspent in terms of lobbying Congress during the Obama years by the dentistry lobby. And it's approximately, we're talking 1.5% of the dollars spent lobbying Congress as the lobbies we really think of as big, like big pharma, big oil, big tobacco. Relatively small. It can get things at the state level.
You sound
Not
like a
nearly
fag
powerful
to
enough
me.
to get us involved in all these wars that people like to blame on it. And that's basically how I see the issue.
That's all that matters.
So
You sound wispy to me.
in terms of the last point about
This
AIPAC,
guy.
I mean, I think if we are going to
RoboCop.
frame it as binaries, like either AIPAC is all powerful and omnipotent, and every single time they snap their fingers and want something, they instantly get all of it, or the alternative is AIPAC is really kind of weak. And I think it's kind of a disservice to the discussion. I think the truth lies in the middle, but far, far closer to the end of the spectrum where they're extremely powerful. And I want to just note two things about this. One is to just talk about AIPAC is to omit huge influences on our political system with people who are aligned not just with the agenda of AIPAC, but the agenda of the Israeli government, a foreign government. So I'll just, one obvious example is Miriam Adelson spent $100 million on Trump's re-election campaign in 2024.
Money in
Throughout
politics.
that whole campaign, Trump was appearing at events with Miriam Adelson, and he was saying things like, I'm going to make my presidency is going to be about making America great again and making Israel great again. He received.
Okay, it's like this is one of those. For me, I still call it political brain rot when they bring up, like, look at all the donations to this person's campaign. Right? Man, I think without a Miriam Adelson, I think Trump still does what he does. I really do believe that. I don't know, unless it's like money going directly into his pocket or his bank account. Maybe they're funneling it through the campaign. It's just going right into his bank account or to his kids' bank accounts. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But if that, without that, I can't. I don't see. I don't see the motive exactly. I think he would personally. Once again, based on just a history of different politicians taking different money from different people for so-called different causes, and yet their behavior just looks like it's in unison with each other. Except for like a few minor things. Not minor, but like a few like things, maybe a little bit different, but typically they look almost the exact same. Maybe one's more aggressive in the same direction. Maybe one's less aggressive, but in the same direction. I keep seeing that over and over and over again. That's why it's like, I keep hearing Miriam Adelson being brought up as like, oh, here's why he's doing what he's doing. Like, I don't think that's enough. Sure, let's look at it, but like, I don't think that's enough. And now it's become like a totem, a statement to say, instead of an actual assessment. It's like, look at the money that Adelson gave Trump, see? From Sheldon to Miriam, or whatever. right? I, I don't know, man. I don't know. It feels like this guy had money.
How much did
What?
how much did the Amish give President Trump, and what has he done for the Amish?
I don't know. I don't know. Has Amish people given him money? I don't know.
They voted for him.
I know farmers have. They're getting well, actually, the big farmers are fine. The little farmers are getting fucked. But that was typical under any presidency, right? Where the bigger farmers get all the benefits and the smaller farmers get shit. Right? That's been the case.
So Amish is big farm.
No, I was referencing like in farmers in general. That's what seems to be happening.
But they're farmers.
I don't know if
Like,
you're
all of
Amish
them
doesn't
are
mean you're
farmers.
automatically a farmer to me. I was just bringing up farmers, kind of.
Pretty much you're a farmer.
Okay.
It has less to do about land rights and more to do about like.
Is he making a point?
We don't
I'll
like
turn you up if you're making a point. You're making a point, Harrison?
I'm still gonna call him gay, but I'm just saying. The thing about the Amish,
Okay.
Maybe.
they voted for Trump because of moral reasons, not exactly for the land rights or the. Like, the Amish doesn't need that shit. They're gonna do it on their own anyways. So
For moral
They always
reasons.
have.
What moral reasons is that?
we're talking about abortion. We're talking about shit happening with the criminals in our justice system. The no cash bail and shit like that. They get out there and they wreck their little village and shit. So that's
okay.
what the Amish jumped on. But as far as Trump giving them, no, Trump's not going to give them shit. They don't want.
They don't want what?
And I don't think they. I don't. Yeah, I don't think they gave them that
They
much
don't take
money.
handouts, bro.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they gave too much money to him either.
I'll say
They don't lobby.
people are people.
They just
so
get their votes because
yeah.
they're morally more in line with what Trump was peddling at the time. So they did.
Well, people are people, right?
My
Who
point
knows
was.
exactly? Good.
My point was like what he was talking about was like Adelson giving Trump 100 million, so that's the Israeli support that he's going to get in return for 100 million. Well, there is something to that being that, but there's also Raytheon giving them money, so they're also going to get attention too because they help fund campaigns on both sides. But the Amish aren't going to get anything because they're not giving much money. They might be giving some, but I don't think it's anywhere significant in the measure
Well,
to one party or the other.
I don't think they're big players. So that would probably be my actual assessment of
Except
things.
for in lumber and farming. Yeah.
Except for
They're
vote.
they're
No.
carpenters.
Big
Votes always
players
count.
are like
They're
the big name companies, bro. Right.
They're carpenters and they're farmers. Like of farmers, they're top of the line farmers. As in they're always productive with very little cost because they're doing it by hand. Like they're getting the most yield out of the least amount of like technology.
Yeah, but it's like there's like the big dicks in the room, right? The Monsanto style like giant mega things which will get the favor when it comes to the White House, right? Versus, a farmer's market.
Right.
And
John Deere is going to get a lot more than the Amish will, even though the Amish are going to have a company that's going to have so much of a lower overhead that it's always going to be there, kind of thing.
yeah. And
John Deere, these farmers are going to 50% of John Deere tractor buyers are going to have a bankrupt farm.
and the big names will give to both sides through whatever routes it takes. Sometimes you put your name on it, sometimes you don't. But yeah, the point is, it's I don't think it's about the money essentially. Personally, I think it's actually strictly about pathology. Let's say like or sort of like conspiratorial thing happening, possibly because let's be real, like Trump was rich, right? He's rich and a celebrity, right? And he gave all that up for the headache of being the president, essentially. Which is when he starts getting into financial troubles and criminal probes and hey, what are you doing with Russia? Like that shit was not there until he ran for president, right? So he actually like kind of, on a social sense, kind of lost in a way. He could have just been comfortably rich, just chilling out. But I don't know. Maybe he bet on himself. I don't know. Who knows? But all right, let's hit play. Hopefully this parlays into, because he's talking about, you know, Miriam Adelson and all that stuff. But I want to see where it gets into Iran. Intelligence cooperation, and alliance, trade, okay. Espionage. Like this one, I want to hear this. I really do. In fact, I might skip there. Do I? All right, let's let him talk for a little bit more. Then I'm gonna skip to that part though. After this, here we go.
Received massive amounts of money from the Adelsons in 2016 as well. And he himself said that by far the people who visited the White House more than anybody else, other than people who worked there, were the Adelsons. Sheldon Adelson was alive at the time. Miriam Adelson, who was an Israeli citizen who naturalized when she married him later in life, would accompany him. And Trump himself said they would come in. They would not ask for anything about Americans. They wouldn't ask for anything for the United States. They would only ask for things for Israel. And I gave them every single thing that they asked for, including things that he said, I even went further than they thought I could go. Like they raised with me the issue of the Golan Heights. I didn't know what that was. So I called in my advisor, David Friedman, a longtime extremist pro-Israel Zionist. He gave me a 5-minute tutorial on the Golan Heights. And afterwards I said, give the Golan Heights to Israel. And then we did. So Trump himself has talked about the extreme power of not AIPAC, but pro-Israel, the pro-Israel lobby. And I should also add to this, like sometimes I think people trying to depict this view about the pro-Israel lobby being extremely powerful as some kind of weird fringe conspiracy theory on the internet, similar to like 9/11 theories or JFK things where people just debate in this conspiracy world. I can show you statements from endless numbers of people who ran the government, like American presidents or people who got very close, who talked. I mean, there are all kinds of tapes with Richard Nixon talking about how the Jewish lobby in the United States is trying to dictate and often does dictate his foreign policy. He said the same once he left in interviews. Barry Goldwater, who was the conservative hero who was nominated in 1964, in an interview in 1988, basically went on and on and on. And he was Jewish, Barry Goldwater, about how Israel and its loyalists in the United States run American foreign policy. These are people at the highest levels of government who have had all kinds of experience in running foreign policy, and they understand very well that the influence.
My thing is, whether if this is true or not, like just hypothetically remove Israel or remove like the alleged Jewish power. Like remove them hypothetically, and then let's say America's still doing the same type of stuff. It's like, what is these people's next thing to blame it on?
What they are saying is that the Jewish lobby or the Israel lobby actually did push them all the way back to Barry Goldwater, and Barry Goldwater said it.
Okay.
So what you're saying is 11 million people pushing around.
Or needs to face. So
what you're saying is 11 million people are pushing
Jordan,
around 350 million people. I don't buy that shit. I never did. You guys are retarded if you think that.
So Jordan, you need to address that issue of that claim. since that's kind of your fucking stance, is you think they're in it together, but if they're being pushed, they're being pushed.
Yes, the Saint Barry Goldwater, the Saint whoever, Donald Trump,
Richard Nixon.
the Saint, those
Said
Saints.
Richard Nixon too.
Yeah, those Saints that
There's recordings. Yeah.
So, listen, for sure, there's people that try to do certain things, 100%. I just think they happen to line up in regards to their interests, I think. Now, if Nixon
I
was
say I don't.
Nixon's
I
biggest
say
war,
I don't want to do this, and this guy's pushing me. That means we're not aligned.
I don't want to do this, but I have no choice, is what you're saying, right? Because their push is so hard, right?
I don't even know if
Now
they were
take that-
successful.
now
with
take
the
that to
push.
Nixon.
It sounds like they were in content. Hold on, they were in contention, is what it sounds like. What Glenn Greenwald is claiming right here.
They were in contention with the White House.
The Israeli lobby, yeah.
Okay.
These two-
And Nixon,
two
who's quite famous
nominees.
for Vietnam, right? Was that a U.S. Did he?
Nixon's
Glenn
famous
Glenn
for
is-
Watergate.
Glenn is saying, well, let's be real. Nixon was like, I'm going to end the Vietnam War, right? That was one of his things, his campaign things that took some time,
Okay.
right? Now, is that Israel? Glenn is saying that these guys say, like, well, Israel controls our foreign policy. You take it to Vietnam. What was Israel? I'm sure they had an interest, but is it the interest? Is it like, yeah, this is the shit we want. Go to war with Vietnam. Was that
He
the
didn't
thing?
say what the issues that they. He didn't say what the issues were for Nixon and
Yeah.
Israel.
I'd have to
at
look
the
into it,
time.
man. I would have to look into it. I don't know. I've never heard that before from the
I would think
Clinton
more like
supported
their
Barry
Middle East.
Goldwater or Richard fucking Nixon.
I would.
Maybe
I
he
would
means they're
assume it
pushy.
would be more along the middle.
I don't know.
Assume our American I would assume it was more along the lines of our American policy for the Middle East that they were interested in. But sure, it might have been something with Vietnam. I wouldn't know.
Okay, I mean, I'd have to look into it. So, I don't know. And no offense to Glenn Greenwald, he's not in some standing to where I instantly just trust him because he said it. I'm not there with that guy. No offense to him.
Because he's a homosexual, right? Because
Because
he's homosexual.
Mouth
He is
drilling
kinda
in
gay.
it.
And
Let's
you
be
only
honest.
agree with.
Yeah, I know. Failed. All right. Let's continue. Here we go.
Of this lobby is unlike any others. Now, there are a lot of other very powerful lobbies. You named several of them, like the pharmaceutical lobby,
Could it be like
Wall
they're
Street.
they're
These are
very
extremely
adamant?
powerful lobbies. They
I could
write
believe
bills.
that.
The difference, though, is that this is a
That they
lobby
run the foreign
devoted
policy.
to the interest of a foreign country. And there's nothing that remotely competes with the power of the pro-Israel lobby in terms of lobbies that
Wait,
come
pause it real quick.
from other countries. And that's
But then, like, it's like obviously Wall Street isn't like an official, like, foreign country, but they essentially run as a foreign country. Wall Street, BlackRock, all those different like global corporate entities. So it's like, what's even the difference? Israel, Wall
Yeah.
Street. It's like they're both foreign entities, basically. They're not connected to America. Well, they're connected. They work together, but they're not like, you know, they're not dependent on it.
Yeah, these fools are international, just like the people in the U.S. government are very much international. It's like there is no boundaries, there is no borders. They'll trick other people into fighting hard for borders, but they don't give a fuck about borders. They're wherever the fuck they want to be at, or feel the need to be at. There is no borders for those guys.
Yeah, exactly. So him saying like, well, it's different because Wall Street isn't foreign. It's like Wall Street is Not
Basically
either
for-
neither foreign or it's like basically
Or
not
the
connected
people.
to anything. Yeah, exactly.
It's whatever's needed for whatever their mean or whatever their objectives are. It'll wherever it takes them, they'll go. Remember what's that movie? Lord of War, right? Where Nicolas Cage is like a gun runner. It's supposed to be based on a real guy, but I don't know the real guy's life. But in the movie, his family's from Soviet Union, but he lives in America, and he's just like, but he's selling guns in Africa, like whatever. He's like all over the fucking place. He's everywhere, international. There is no like, this is my like, pride for the flag. Like none of that. Nah, get the fuck out of here. It's
And they let him
just-
go at the end.
Just business.
Hey, he did his first deal in America. He sold an Uzi out of his trunk or something, right?
Was that the case? I don't remember. Well, I remember he has like
It
family
was- yeah.
overseas, like Soviet Union, and he got access to that, and they were like, "Yeah, we got all these guns that are not going to be used." He's like, "I'll take them," and starts selling them all over the fucking place. All right.
I remember he said, "You're gonna get a
The,
phone call and you're gonna let me free." And he did.
Yeah. And Ethan Hawke was pissed.
He was talking to some general. I think it was Ukraine. He was talking to some general saying like, "I'll work this deal out for you, but tomorrow we're about to lose control of this part of the Soviet Union. So these guns are invisible as of tomorrow."
Yeah. All right. Let's continue. Here we go.
It's the reason why it gets so much attention. It's just such a bizarre phenomenon of American political life, such a unique phenomenon that politicians in both parties so frequently travel there, talk about it, pledge loyalty to it, talk about how important it is that it remains a staple. We hear all the
Words,
time that
words, and
Republicans and
words.
Democrats can't agree on anything. Go look at pro-Israel resolutions and how they fare. Like Marjorie Taylor Greene talked about this, Thomas Massey. Like every other week, they're voting on Israel. And when those votes come up, it's like 413 to 8. For decades, it's been like that. Like one of the only issues that doesn't produce polarization
That's true.
in Washington. And that's beyond getting to the question of why we
No
war in
warfare.
Iran and what Joe Kent said, what Marco Rubio said, what a lot of, even leaving that aside, I'm just telling you that this is a view that has been expressed by the most mainstream American politicians for a long, long time. And I think it's safe to presume that it's not based on nothing.
Yeah, so we'll get to around.
Okay. I say fair enough. There is something there, in my humble opinion, but it isn't the entirety of the there. And I'm not saying that Glenn is exactly saying that, but I think we will have more of an understanding of where Glenn's coming from. And let's be real, this is now a topic. This is a thing now in regards to the whole Israel. Like it's like the floodgates opened, and now it's like everything is like looking towards Israel. And it's like, I think you guys should like, think a little bit harder. I think there's a lot of poor behavior happening around the fucking globe, and look into that too. But instead, they maybe want simple answers or something like that, or whatever, or just typical, simple fucking answers for everything. That who cares if it matches reality? It feels good to say right now. In 2 to 3 years, we'll say something else that's also comfortable to say at the time period, which is unfortunate, but seems to be like a constant theme in the world of politics. It seems like, or at least in like the pop culture politics, if you will. But all right, let's see this. I want to hear this point, this portion here. Did Israel influence the U.S. to go to war with Iran? I want to hear both Glenn, well, mainly Glenn's answer. Mainly Glenn's answer, but I'm sure Coleman will say his point of view too, which is going to be like, no, of course not. And hopefully he provides the questions once again, Michael Tracy, fuckface, sweat lord, greasy motherfucker, right? But when he's on the opposite side of this issue, he can at least ask questions that are worthy of listening. Mark Levin with Joe Kent, where Joe Kent couldn't answer certain questions. And I don't mean the classified portion. I mean like straight up like, here's a simple question based on your own thesis, and you won't answer this. Because a lot of times they protect the White House as they're also saying their narratives. But hopefully Glenn doesn't have that problem, and he can make an actual, coherent argument of why it actually is. This is Israel's war, and the U.S. got dragged into it. Once again, keep that context: dragged versus, like, yeah, you guys are doing this. All right, we're with you. Let's do it. There's a difference between that thing and straight up like, well, Israel's going to do this, so thus, we're getting pulled in too. We got dragged into it. I think it's much different, much different. Let me leave and come back real fast.
My thing is, it's like, of course, Israel influenced this, just like Saudi Arabia, just like the UAE, just like American policy, just like maybe even certain factions in the Iranian government.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of hands involved in all of this. And yeah, there's no denying that the apparatus of Israel wants Iran to go. In fact, I think a lot of the population does too. I think they have different ideas like how that should happen, but I think a lot of them do want Iran to fall down.
1975 want Iran to go, but you're not a real American, so you wouldn't.
Hop off my cock, Harrison. Anyways, yeah, I would think so. Like the suits.
You're not a real American. You're a Democrat liberal.
Yeah, sure.
You're not a real American.
All right, the suits and Harrison, my child. But yeah, there's definitely, obviously, I think the apparatus, the suits, the businessmen, the political guys in Israel want their populace to have this opinion, and they themselves have it themselves of like wanting Iran to fall down, probably for different reasons than pride and protection for Israel, probably for some different reasons, but still, that is definitely a factor. But some people are like looking at it as like it is the factor, and that's where my contention is at. That's all. But let me leave and come back real fast. I'm back. Teleported. All right, let's hear it.
Hold on, we got a new person in the voice call.
You got a terrorist in here now.
Oh shit!
I went to the dark side.
Oh damn! Who is that? I don't recognize that voice.
Holy shit! I thought I had you fucking voice blocked. Jesus Christ! I gotta do it again. Jesus Christ! Tony, fucking Tony.
Doing jihad on Harrison. He is blocked.
Anyways, let's hit play. Here we go.
Okay, so let's talk about the Iran war since it's what's happening now. I haven't actually seen you talk too much about it. I guess I think you had a recent Tucker, but can you make the case for me based on actual evidence that we're fighting the Iran war because of Israeli influence of some kind?
Yeah. So my view is not that the only.
Yes, there's influence. Well, how do I describe this one? There is,
right, because
at least an
influence
attempt
is
at
a
influence.
loose term.
Well, it's like, are they buying it or not? Is more of the idea. Like, if they have influence, that means it worked, right? But I wouldn't describe it as that. I would say,
can you get some? Can you get something for free? Then what do you need money for?
I don't mean
Would
money.
that count as influence?
But okay, if you're saying like they're going to do this anyways, they're aiming this direction anyways. Like, is it influence then?
Hold on. Let's say we get our they get their $3 billion every year, but they want fucking free lunch every time they come into the cafeteria. Since they're getting $3 billion from us, why don't we just throw in lunch for them? Wouldn't that count as influence? And then couldn't you apply that to anything?
Okay, I was going a completely different direction. I was going with like, well, if the U.S. is like, yeah, we want to take down Iran because we don't like whatever reason, right? There's actually plenty of geopolitical reasons of why the creepy crawlies in government want Iran to fall. There's plenty of on paper reasons for that. And if Israel shows up at the White House saying like, hey, we should take down Iran, the U.S. is like, yeah, no shit. What do you got for us? Like as far as like what logistics, what intel, what can you provide to help out this thing? I'm sorry, at this point I'm like, I can almost, I'm not going to guarantee, but my mind is leaning towards the idea that Israel is essentially on paper, because Americans can't do anything about it, right? On paper, it's a scapegoat because Americans can't do anything about it. So when Americans scream like, "Oh no, this is Israel doing this," yeah, scream it all you want. Nothing happens to Israel. But meanwhile, your actual government is getting away with a bunch of shit.
They get a pass.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm sorry, but my mind starts like is leaning in that direction at this point because of how pervasive of a narrative the direction of the narratives are going towards. Like, damn, are motherfuckers like, because they're not critically thinking about it, they're just saying it. They're not, no critical thinking, just saying these things. I'm like, dude, come on, guys. Like, the point is like, the reason why you're upset in the first place is you felt like you got tricked. And now it feels like they're falling for another trick. And if you get in their way, they're mad at you for telling, like, hey, man, didn't you guys get tricked before? They get mad at you for calling that out. This is why it's like mind breaking. Hopefully,
like how in lock it is, like
Well, it's
lockstep.
like
yeah, like
it's like the classical black and white. They don't want to look inward, so they'll just look outward at Israel.
that'd be the saddest version
Well,
of
it's
things.
always.
That'd be the saddest one.
But
People
here's
outsource
maybe
I
a different way
strongly
of
feel that.
looking at. Here's a different way of looking at it. Since the end of World War I, the splitting up of the Ottoman Empire, every bit of Israel's interest has been America's interest because it is taming the Middle East.
It could be
But what does that
political.
mean,
Or,
Dubster?
sorry,
Like that, even that's
terrible
not.
track.
That doesn't go deep enough. Pause. That doesn't go far enough.
I hear his point though. Like the idea of like they're walking on parallel tracks next to each other, and it looks like. I mean, depending on like what you believe in the world, you could believe one way or the other, right? I'm sure there's some that like, oh my God, U.S. is controlling Israel. Oh my God, Israel's controlling the U.S. Versus like, I see like maybe more like two trains moving at the same speed on parallel tracks with each other, like just moving in the same direction.
Yeah,
I
well,
see
you
more
can
so
make the
that.
argument. You can make the argument. Iran aside, certain other countries, Lebanon, Yemen aside,
Yeah.
where everything lines up in a way where it does look like interests are aligned, but it's more like Israel is a vessel that is essentially the aircraft carrier. Like who said that? That it's essentially like a landlocked aircraft carrier for the
Reagan
United
said it.
States military. Who?
Reagan famously said it.
Yeah, because like it's if you go like from a historical standpoint, who are we working with in that region? It's like the creepers are the creepers that are either interested in money or the religious theocracy of Wahhabism, which is why like Al Qaeda. That's why we get along with Al Qaeda. The Kurds seem like they're fucking hostages.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're good. Sometimes we treat them good. Sometimes we actually never treat them good. We just give them weapons sometimes and tell them, "Yeah, man, fight for your cause." And then when they need us the most, we leave them high and dry, over and over again for these other countries to kill them. but essentially, like, the interests do align. But from our standpoint, it's to control the money, honestly, and the influence comes from the money of the oil, and obviously our situation with the petrol. It just happens to coincide with religious religious fanatics in Israel also use
Territories.
also using that
Mm.
to do the Greater Israel project. But I don't necessarily, like Jordan would say, I don't necessarily think it's all religion. It's not all for a noble cause, quote unquote.
Hmm.
It would be just to keep
No,
exerting power and making the
no,
country
no,
bigger.
no. It can't. It can. It does not have an ability to be noble, because war has to be determined to be just for both religions, Christian and Judaism, and neither one of these wars could ever be considered just.
They found a way to make that argument.
Yeah, and they know they're lying. They know they're lying.
I mean, and also I fucked up with my little metaphor there. I don't think they're on parallel tracks. I think they're in the same fucking train. That's what I think, and I think they're both dragging their citizens. They're both dragging their citizens towards these directions. They're the they're those are the those are the actual ones being dragged. Are the people that regular people that don't know any better, that are being pulled in a direction by this one train,
What
not
year
multiple
was it?
trains. One
And it all
train
seems
on one
full of shit.
track
Who's
going
a true
along one
believer?
direction.
Pete Hex is a true believer. Netanyahu's a true believer. Marco Rubio. None of
Nah,
these people are true believers, bro.
yeah, I don't believe that. These guys are they're
Bro,
faking it.
any argument based on religion is is um what do you call it, a red herring.
If you're Hexeth and you saw Christ, he's running or trying to kill him. Netanyahu,
Rubio might,
if he
yeah,
saw
Rubio might
his
slit it.
Messiah,
Netanyahu might try to kill him.
I mean, like, whatever the Jewish Messiah might be, I
Okay.
don't know what that is, but whatever that is, Netanyahu's running for his life. My guess.
You could argue that the Rothschilds have owned the West since 1815, the Battle of Waterloo, where they basically took over the stock market of England at the same time that Napoleon lost everything for the French. And then we just 2 years prior lost our second war against England for the
Yeah, but look at it, Dubster. All of
so
that is. Think about it though. It's not like
so what I'm
it's
saying
not like they're treating
is
Jewish guys. They're not treating
it's
Jewish people better
that
than everyone else.
I'm not talking. No, no. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the Rothschilds have been directing everything for the West since 1815. So sure, you can make the argument that they're all in the same train because they have a central king that controls all of them.
He ain't no
If you want to
fucking.
go down that path,
Have you not seen Game of Thrones? Come on, man. If they were like, yo, this guy thinks he runs everything, let's get this guy the fuck out of here. You don't think they would do that?
but they still paid their taxes and they still did what the king said. But they might be conniving on the under level of it. But they're still, at the time being, until we can figure out how to
What
overthrow them.
security?
Yeah, we're still showing up when he when he calls the coat of arms. You come, even though you're conniving and trying to get to where he's no longer the king.
The reason why that happens is because the king had fucking guards and an army that could stop you and kill you if you get caught. Right? If you try to overthrow him, he has a fucking army to fuck with you. What is fucking Rothschild? Does he have an army?
You don't. Yeah.
How?
Any
Where?
other country that goes up against him. Any other country that goes up against him.
No, where's his army at? Or their family's army.
Everywhere. They're all loyal to him. So if one of them breaks away and says, I'm not going to be loyal, okay, fuck it. I'm declaring war on that one.
So the loyal people,
That's a rebellion.
The people that are loyal.
That's a rebellion.
Oh, sorry. The people that are loyal that control the militaries, they're the ones that run Rothschild's military,
Yeah, and
and they're
if one
afraid
of
of
them
him.
rebels, he sicks the rest of them on him.
I think it's have to be.
have a
Nah,
question.
I think you're just way off on this one, man. Doesn't make sense. God,
Like the Rothschilds, like solely, or is that just like a shorthand for like like global private
Shorthand.
sector? Like, oh, okay, that makes sense then.
so you don't mean
Well,
a
'Cause you
family?
know how
The
people.
control was done. The original Waterloo thing, where he gained all the power, was just him. But he's got minions. Everybody's kind of his minion. The King of England was his minion. The new government after Napoleon was ousted was his minion.
So the Rothschilds run
England just
everything,
beat
and there's people that want to overthrow them
England
as the runner of
just beat
everything, and they
America
can't
2
do it.
years before.
They can't do it because there's other people that are just die hard loyal to him or to the family.
Well, look at what
Not gonna work.
Iran
out,
is. It is the exodus of a Rothschild. The Shah was a loyal Rothschild, loyal to the West, and then Ayatollah revolutionized against it. So he sicked the West onto the Ayatollah.
Okay, so you do mean a family. You don't mean like an apparatus, a conglomerate of people, an apparatus of people. You're saying there's someone that controls the controllers.
I don't know what I mean. I don't know what I mean because at a certain point, you have to give because what's it called whenever you have other people as a manager, you're saying I can't do it all. I need the
delegate.
Yeah, at a point, there's a whole bunch of delegation. So he has to have faith that they're just gonna be there on his side and handle it when they're not.
It would make more sense to me if it's actually selected every so often, where it's like, okay, this guy right now, he's the best at planning these things, so you know what, we're gonna let him be the guy. But if he becomes useless or terrible at what he's doing, then we just go with someone else. And it doesn't have to have a family name. It's more of you're one of the guys. You're connected. You're connected like that. So maybe this person should run the whole thing because they're smarter than Rothschild's grandson or something like that. That
I mean, let's
tries
be
to
honest,
inherit
bro.
something.
Remember when Trump won? The CEO of YouTube, of Google, was there. Musk, Bezos, those guys. I'm like, bro, those guys are like, yeah, we're here to make sure this guy does what we, and that's what he did. We're here to make sure this guy lines with Zuckerberg. We're here to make sure this guy lines our pockets, and we get the contracts we want, and we get things to go the way we want them to go. Like that's honestly, those are the fucking Rothschilds of today. You think about it, Dubster, Adelson family.
They're definitely part of it.
But still, the Rothschilds are still
even the UAE and the Saudis.
The Rothschilds are still the richest people on earth, and they reward handsomely everyone that's loyal to them. Like they share their wealth with everybody that works for them because they know that's part of keeping them loyal.
So if Trump was Trump is the president. Let's say he's like, you know what? Fuck the Rothschilds. Let's go run them over. All right, let's expose them. Let's fuck them up. You're telling me that like, okay, all of a sudden, the UK, France, all these countries are gonna like line up and start fighting a war against America? Is that the logic?
I don't think they would have to. You could argue that Trump getting shot at was them telling him like, all right, we just won you this shit.
Assassinations would be
you can't make that argument, but I get what you're saying. But you can't make that argument. He had a first term, whereas the exact opposite of he's going again. He's bucking the system.
I understand. Like it's like fucking kayfabe. He's gonna take a fall for us. He's gonna get shot, or it's gonna look like he got shot. However you want to interpret that. And fallout. What's the fallout from that? Him getting shot. Iran tried to assassinate him. What are we doing now? trying to destroy Iran. Like come on.
Oh, there's a whole thing. Oh, no one. I mean, the public didn't buy that. So, like, those narratives are for the public, right? If Iran tried to kill me, that's for the public, and motherfuckers are not buying it. The people are not buying it. They weren't buying it then. They're not buying it now. That it was Iran. Everyone thought it was like, oh my god, it's the deep state trying to kill Trump because he's so good. He's such a good person.
But yo, you see how no one says that now, Jordan? You see how no one says that now?
Someone's
There
got
was
to
a
say
deep
it.
state.
I don't know.
That kind of died though. That narrative died.
No, it's still there. They just say like Trump's a part of it.
It's Iran now.
No, they
Try to
just
kill him.
say Trump is a part of the deep state. For the people that were screaming deep state for a while, they say Trump's a part of it.
Fair enough. I don't think we're talking about different things. It just I guess it's just the way there's like something in between us that connects it that
Pause.
we can't pause. That I can't decipher because I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. I'm saying all this shit is interconnected somehow. I just don't have the mechanism to tie them together. But they're definitely all connected. How could you be saying one thing then you're saying one thing now? I'll grant that it's a group of people. It's not everybody, but still, like the both things can be at play at the same time.
Well, there's something going on for sure, and I agree. Like it's multiple
He's
hands
being
involved, but like,
influenced at least, at the very least, influenced.
well, Trump. That
Trump and everyone around him,
I agree.
Rubio,
I think they're
all these little weasels, bro. You know,
a
weasels
part
getting
of it. Then
they're getting
I don't know.
fucking eight-page scripts every day. Hey, Marco, read this today.
If you
They're getting,
unless
like,
there's a gun to the back of your head, I think they're just a part of it. They're like, yeah, okay, we're doing this. All right, fine, let's do it. That means you're
yeah,
complicit.
I know. I'm just saying, like, they give them bulletin points. Like, listen, man, you're gonna hit if asked, which you probably will be. Cause that's another thing, bro. You're always talking about Bernays and shit. Like, these guys probably know what they're gonna be asked on any given day based on certain developments coming out, and like they're being prepped nonstop. Hey,
Oh yeah.
if when asked about this, this is the answer. Memorize it, learn it, act like it came out your own fucking head over and over again. Sometimes they trip up. Sometimes they say the wrong thing. They say the thing they weren't supposed to say.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a certain wiggle room of freestyling that Trump does for sure. I think.
Yeah.
But
No,
it's still
Trump's
just
different.
like
Yeah, these other weasels though. Yeah, these other weasels are fucking being fed shit nonstop
yeah.
because they know they can't. The powers that be know these fuckers can't.
Would you prefer a Kamala administration?
And we're here. Anyways, all right, let's continue with this. Let's continue. I think it's actually, I think the thing that I think is the case is a lot more simpler, but actually more crazy. If you look at like what minds it takes to be able to behave a certain way, it's like, whoa, that's fucking actually batshit crazy. Okay, but all right, here we go.
Of some kind.
Yeah. So my view is not that
Back up for the question.
I haven't actually seen you talk too much about it. I guess I think you had a recent Tucker, but can you make the case for me based on actual evidence that we're fighting the Iran war because of Israeli influence of some kind?
Yeah. So my view is not that the only reason Trump went and fought a war with Iran and attacked Iran is because of Israel, but that was a very significant factor. And I'll start with the fact that Iran has been Israel's primary adversary in that region for decades. Right. It has been number one on the wish list of Benjamin Netanyahu, going all the way back to the war on terror and before, to lure the United States into a regime change war in Iran because of Israel's understanding that the main bulwark of resistance against its total and complete domination of that region is Iran, that is their only counterweight to power. It is in a lot of the eyes of a lot of Israelis, an existential threat to Israel. I don't think it is, but a lot of Israelis believe it is. And if you believe it is, you're going to prioritize that as a war. I don't think anyone thinks Iran is an existential threat to the United States. You have the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu traveled to the United States last year 7 times, obviously to talk about the American war against Iran, that he was trying to lure the president into fighting. Of course, we did attack Iran last year in conjunction with Israel. We supposedly, quote, totally and completely obliterated their nuclear program in a way that we were told would mean that we wouldn't have to attack them again because that problem had been solved for a long time, for the foreseeable future. And yet,
okay, like that beg the question, Glenn. Okay, which things are where? Once again, I'm trying to look at the narrative of the White House got tricked versus dragged versus they're a part of it. Right? Like I want to hear like, okay, why would they claim they obliterated something? Like was that a lie? Okay, well, why is that happening? Why would they do that for Israel? And then the idea might be like, oh well, they're blackmailed, that's why. And it's like, well, then you have to now prove that idea over here somewhere. They have to like make a case for all this stuff. That's what I want to hear. Make it make sense for me. Otherwise, I can't say I know. But all right.
Glenn did say that there was some reasons that Trump wanted that war with Iran that were without Israel needing to like influence him. Like he agreed on
Glenn has
some
a rubber in his
aspects.
ass, but he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He's gay. Jesus Christ.
Well, let's hear. I want to hear his lay out the explanation. Lay out your guess, your hypothesis, whatever. Let it be known. Here we go.
now, after 7 visits from Netanyahu, the United States is back in a war against not a country that it can existentially threaten the United States, not a country that has ever attacked our homeland. We have had terrorist attacks over the past 25 years, some very significant ones. None of them have come from Iranian terrorists or Shia terrorists. They've all come from our best friends in that region, the Sunnis and the Saudis and people who hail from that particular strain of geopolitics and religion. So Iran has not attacked the United States, can't attack the United States in a meaningful way. And then you have the fact, of course, that even on the question of timing, and this, I think, people are debating what Marco Rubio said, what Trump said, what Tom
Epstein
Cotton and Mike Johnson said.
That's a
Everyone
lie.
said in the people I just named and others that we had to go to war with Iran. When asked what the imminent threat was, the imminent threat we were told was Israel was going to go to war with Iran, and they told us they're going to go to war with Iran, and we believed that once Israel did that, the Iranians would attack our military bases because of the support we give to Israel, and so we had to also attack preventively because of what Israel was going to do. So they, in their narrative, talk about the centrality of Israel and what it was intending to do as a major reason, at least in terms of the timing, if not the decision itself.
So, okay, so he's kind of heard saying the things we've heard already, which is fair enough. Rubio one's that's a hard for me. I still haven't bought into that one yet. That Israel was going to attack, and thus we knew that Iran would counterattack. I counterattack like the U.S. as well, even though once again Rubio is saying like, well, Israel's going to do it on their own. That's still a rough one for me to understand, or I don't get that one. As far as that sounds like more like a lie or an excuse for the U.S. to attack preemptively. Like, hey, they were going to attack us first, so we attacked them first. Right? Imminent threat. It sounds like bullshit to me. But people are taking that
don't forget. Don't forget the 12-day war. Israel did that. Iran did not attack the United States. They hit Israel back.
Exactly.
No one brings that up. That shit is crazy to me.
Well, I keep hearing this Rubio thing being used over and over and over again. Like, look at this clip from Marco Rubio. Look what he said. See, look, he said the quiet part out loud, right? And it's like, well, does that actually make sense? It could make the whole idea of Israel look like a psyop it makes it look that way to me sometimes when I hear people like using that as the reason of why the U.S. would attack Iran first. Oh, well, Israel's going to attack, which means they force the U.S. hand to attack extra first. The extra be preemptive. Is that the actual argument? That doesn't make sense. Like, from what I gather, Israel, the U.S., other Gulf countries were all gun ho for taking Iran the fuck out because they're not team players. They're on the wrong team. They're in the wrong gang. Let's fucking take them out. That's what it looks like to me. Like just more criminal activity, taking out your rivals. Or it could be something even more sinister, right? I've heard ideas where Iran's in on it too. Although that's a little bit harder for me to grasp on as far as like what I think right now. But it's an idea out there. It's extra conspiratorial, but like, hey, it's an idea out there. I'll be fair. But yeah, this is let's see what Coleman Hughes asked as a question, because a lot of these hyper pro Israel or pro narrative people, they actually ask decent questions to these guys that are just screaming Israel for everything. Not that Glenn is doing that. Glenn established himself as not doing that in his own words, but his reasoning for all this stuff seems to be a repeat of Tucker Carlson, Joe Kent, these personalities and motherfuckers on the internet. Right? Dave Smith. But all right, let's hear where they go.
Yeah. Okay. So a few points. I believe in the principle of parsimony, which is to say, if there's a simple explanation for something, go for the simple explanation. Don't go for the complicated explanation with dubious evidence. Donald Trump, lifelong aggressive posture towards Iran for decades, long before he was even president. He believes, as he stated on Andrew Schultz's podcast. Now, I'm not saying I believe this because I haven't seen the evidence, but Trump believes that the Iranians were behind the Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt that nearly killed him. And then recently we have the conviction of Asif Merchant, the Pakistani man, who is, according to what came out who drew the pictures when the jury convicted, backed by Iran. Assassination attempt that was probably targeted at Trump, potentially Nikki Haley or Joe Biden. So Trump, for sure, what we know is Trump believes Iran tried to kill him and got very close, maybe multiple times.
We don't know that.
Trump being an incredibly and unusually vindictive personality, to me, that sufficiently explains his very aggressive posture towards Iran. You combine that with the fact that he built a whole identity in the 2010s around opposing, not only being a great deal maker, obviously he's had this identity as being a great deal maker his whole life, but around opposing the nuclear deal, right? So he wants to get some nuclear deal that's significantly stronger, like a zero nuclear deal with Iran, which
zero enrichment, but here we go.
They're not going to go for, and that is sufficient to explain why Trump sees aggressive action towards Iran to hamper not only their nuclear capabilities, but their conventional missile arsenal, so that they can't become strong enough to have a deterrent from us hitting their nuclear programs in the future. All of that is a pretty simple explanation that makes a lot of sense. It conserves a lot of the facts we know about Donald Trump's psychology and U.S. foreign policy in the past several decades. And to sort of drive right past that stop on the highway and say this is about Israel because, even Marco Rubio's statement had nothing to do with the influence of the Israel lobby, right? Let's say Marco Rubio was telling the truth there. He obviously walked it back right after, but who knows? Maybe who knows which one was a lie, right? Let's say the second one was a lie and he was telling the truth. He was not providing evidence of Israel's leverage or ability to strong arm in any way Donald Trump's decision making, who was the commander in chief. He was saying basically we felt Israel was about to attack. We have bases in the Middle East. At that moment, it became in our interest to attack as well. That's not a point about how much Israel controls us. And And again, like, I guess the framing, I would also question the framing of that all of our bases in Gulf states in the Middle East are for Israel's benefit. There's one thing you could say is that they benefit Israel. Okay, well, that's one fact. A lot of things, there's many win-wins in the world. There's many scenarios of mutual benefit. But the Gulf states that we have military bases there, this is a win-win for, at least in the perception of whoever in the Gulf state made those choices, it's a win-win for them too, right? So you could argue we're there for their benefit as well, right? And again, you can disagree with all of those decisions. You can say, in fact, it's not in our benefit to have all these military bases around the world. That's a totally valid claim, and you can argue for that. But what I don't think you can say is, because I don't think it's in the U.S. benefit for us to have a military base in such and such a Gulf state. Therefore, it must be the case that Israel is the reason why their influence in our government is the reason why we're there.
I'll say fair enough. Granted, I don't trust this guy's motives of why he does what he does. But in words, I say fair enough. Answer that fucking question, Glenn. Let's hear it.
I mean, I presume Benjamin Netanyahu got on a plane 7 times last year to fly to Washington, even though he has all sorts of extremely pressing matters at home, including a major corruption scandal where he's criminally indicted, as well as numerous wars still ongoing. I presume he went to Washington 7 times for a reason. And that reason was that he knew that he's going there would be able to persuade President Trump to do what Benjamin Netanyahu has been urging the United States to do for many decades in Israel's interest, which is go and commit regime change war in Iran. Even though the last time we changed the regime of Iran in 1953 resulted in an absolute horror show. That was the reason why Iran became so anti-American in the first place, why they held our diplomats hostage when the revolution happened, because we had imposed on them a savage tyranny in the form of the Shah of Iran. And so this idea that we're going to go and repeat our same mistakes that we've been making for the last 60 years all around the world, that has produced so much anti-American sentiment and so much anger and so much animosity toward us, and that is just a coincidence that Netanyahu came 7 times and that Miriam Adelson was Trump's second largest donor, and all these other pro-Israel billionaires who jumped on the train at the last minute with Trump weren't pressuring him. Like, I think, you can never prove for certain what was in Trump's mind, but looking at all the evidence, we're now in a war that Netanyahu has wanted for decades in Israel's interest, against a country that cannot threaten American citizens in the United States, but can certainly threaten Israel and has threatened Israel. Even the issue of ballistic missiles. Trump last year in that 12-day war said that Israel was getting absolutely pummeled by Iranian ballistic missiles. So I understand from an Israeli perspective why you would want to destroy all Iranian ballistic missiles and their conventional arsenal, but they've not.
What? Once again,
Your audio is crazy low.
Oh, hello.
It's just very low.
Yeah, I'm walking right now. Hold on. Hello. But once again, it's the Pico Sykes thing.
Sykes-Picot, yeah.
We have interest there. You can't argue that we don't. So whether Israel, Netanyahu flies and says, do this for me, we already have a plan on our own for every country in the world.
Yeah.
We think it's time for them to be fucking changed. Guess what? That's our plan. And you want to be on our side for this? Cool. We were doing it already anyway.
That's what it looks like to me. And once again, it's
And I
not.
couldn't argue one way or the other behind the scenes. Who's actually the one that's in charge here? I could never argue that. Not behind the scenes. But I do understand we have interests there.
We, as in our government, has interests there.
Right. Because of another deal between two other countries that neither one of those countries is Israel. France and England.
You said France and England, I think. Your audio is a little bit low there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's a bunch of hands involved in all this, and this is not, once again, not to get rid of the idea of Israel wanting Iran ran over. I think, of course, they fucking do, and so do a lot of other countries. They're in the way of business. They're in the fucking way, and yeah, I think the U.S. policy has been posturing towards running Iran over for a long time now. I think they've already been posturing in that direction, just like Israel has already been posturing in that direction, just like Saudi has been posturing in that direction. I think Europe has been posturing in that direction. Like, they've all been doing that. And one thing needs to happen, like, things have to happen first before you actually approach that because of what they have over there, right? Possibly the territory, possibly the energy sources, possibly the Strait of Hormuz, whatever the fuck. You need certain things, like, in place first before you could do it. And I think they needed Syria to be ran over first. I think they needed Iraq to go down first. I think they needed, like, some regional sense of, we run this shit. Let us surround them with all the with whatever. Let us surround them. And then, yeah, then now we're seeing what we're seeing.
You know what you might also find in there is some German weaponry and some Japanese weaponry, because we beat them in the second war and we made them our little bitches. This 3-country pact that is in Israel, England, and France, and then Australia. They might have some troops that end up over there because they were England's bitch anyway. And then France, they got some bitches over in fucking China or Asia that they might actually end up over there because they're bitches.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but I wouldn't put it in country terms. I put it maybe on paper, as far as the way treaties and deals maybe work.
I'm just trying to make it easily seen. Yeah, I'm just trying to make it easily seen. Like, we've got like the whole world kind of throughout to just be united under, we fucked you up, and we're kind of a united empire for whatever reason. And the main players have all these subjugated countries under them that can always summon in somebody else to do the bidding, but it is actually the main players. But it looks like it's the underlings because they're subjects.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look, I could. Okay, let's say the idea that the U.S. has the most powerful army in the world, right? They're the most powerful military in the world. Let's say that, right?
Well, you don't have to say it. It's true.
Okay, let's say it's true.
Right.
It is true.
Let's say it's true. But there's individuals, let's say even in like rival countries, there's individuals that don't fly flags to where that army is essentially theirs too. And I think the same goes for, let's say, something like Israel, which is not the most powerful army in the world. But when they are given a task to move around, it is on the behest of certain individuals from who the fuck knows, like all over different countries across the world.
The 11 million people in Israel are a lot stronger than every NATO country right now, besides the United States.
Okay, you're thinking in a small scope. I'm trying to go a little bit bigger scope of things, in my humble opinion, what I think is a bigger scope of things, where it's like an individual in a certain country holds by 10 times the power towards a foreign military than a citizen or even like an army ranger. There's some guy in fucking random, who the fuck knows, from Bahrain, for all we know, wherever, right? That holds a higher influence for the U.S. military than the U.S. military does itself I'm saying, like, I think it's that pervasive. The Americans that pay their paychecks, that, work in their factories to build these things, whether they're engineers or custodians, whatever. I think the weaponry and the military itself, I think there's more control from all bunch of different hands, and you might also call them foreign. It's just like people are just leaping towards Israel, but in reality, like, I think it's a whole bunch of foreign, as in motherfuckers born in America, working in the government, using these fucking apparatuses, using things like the military or the military industry. These guys might as well be foreign too. That's where I'm at. That's what I think.
Mistake about it. Trump is a foreigner.
Bro, if I
For
had
all
to go to
intents and
war right
purposes.
now with China, let's just say that something lit off in the South Pacific, and we had to go with war with China, I wouldn't want Europe. I would take Israel with me.
Okay,
I
you
really
missed
would.
the whole conversation we were having.
No,
a-
you're not. No, NATO doesn't have shit. They haven't had their shit together for a long time. We should get out and just take Israel with us, do our own thing, blow people up on ourselves.
Okay,
Just
you're having your own
independent,
conversation. That's fair enough. Okay, your thing, man.
Well, it's true. I mean, fuck those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude, have your own conversation. Go do your thing.
No, they shit on us all the time. Fuck them. They ain't helping us.
Yeah, fuck them.
We'll take our baby Israel with us.
All right,
Their 300 fighter jets. We'll fuck shit up. Don't worry about it.
all right, fair enough. Anyways, yeah, I think there's a lot of hands involved in military decisions from Israel to the U.S. to Saudi Arabia to South America to Africa. Like, there's a lot of hands involved in even those countries we don't even like know anything about. I think there's a hand
McDonald's
over it.
and Cinnabon at Ramstein will get over it if we move out. I'm just saying we can move all our shit somewhere else. We'll be fine.
Okay.
And we can just go like blow shit up.
I'm
Ukraine.
not arguing with you. I'm just saying. Okay. Go ahead, Hickory. Ukraine, what?
No, he was just saying we could move our stuff somewhere else, and I was just saying like Ukraine, which is probably their plan at the end of the day.
Fair enough.
Go back home to Khazaria.
That'd be a much more convenient way to look at things. All right, let's keep playing this. Here we go.
Ever shot ballistic missiles at the United States. There's questions about whether or not they even could. And, nuclear deterrence works around the world. And this, I think, is one of the main issues that we have to really consider, which is, war is supposed to be a last resort. So this idea like, oh, Iran tried to kill Trump. I heard that in the Iraq War. President Bush said, Saddam Hussein tried to kill my dad. This is, it was obvious when these claims were being circulated in 2024 that they would have the effect of trying to convince Trump, hey, look, they tried to kill you. You should go in and attack Iran. And apparently, I'm sure that did play a factor. But even there, like, why does Iran have so much animosity toward the United States? Why does Iran want to attack our military bases in the United States? Is it just because they're irrational and an apocalyptic cult and hate anybody who doesn't share their religious views? Or is it because the people in that leadership have anti-American sentiment for the same reason that people have anti-American sentiment all over the world, in every continent, in every region, because we've meddled for so long in their country, we've overthrown their governments, we've imposed dictatorships on them, or maybe because Trump assassinated one of their most important military generals, one of the most beloved and well-regarded military generals in his first term, and they saw that as a fair retaliation. So we have to constantly ask, why is all this happening? And then you look at the fact, I'm sure you recall this, I'm just a few years older than you, like 2 or 3, but going back to like the first Obama administration, we were hearing from the US security establishment, from the Western security establishment, that the most important thing is that we have to extricate ourselves from the Middle East and pivot to China, pivot to Asia, because China is our number one competitor or adversary or enemy, depending on how you look at that. And yet, not only haven't we pivoted to Asia, we can't extricate ourselves from the Middle East. We're actually removing, anti-missile batteries that were incredibly controversial when we put in South Korea in order to bring them over now in order to protect Israel and to protect American bases in this new Middle East war. Why can't we extricate ourselves from the Middle East, Coleman? Like, what is it that's there that is so crucial? We're a net exporter of oil. We don't need oil from the Middle East. As Trump said, we don't use the Strait of Hormuz. All those countries would happily sell us whatever oil we wanted to buy from them, including Iran. They would love to be able to sell us oil. So it's not oil. There is no vital interest in the Middle East left for the United States other than Israel. And I would submit that's one of the main
Liquid
reasons we
natural
haven't been
gas.
able to extricate ourselves from the Middle East, and why, despite a president who spent decades, and certainly the last 10 years running for president, vowing never to involve the United States in more regime change wars or more Middle East wars, we're now involved in what arguably is the most dangerous one of them all. Trump could just end it quickly. It could end up spiraling into an escalation that he can't control. It's an extremely dangerous situation. And so obviously, Netanyahu
sure
thinks
it's already
his visits to Washington play a major role. The pro-Israel lobby that gave Trump so much money thinks that they're playing an influential role on behalf of Israel. And I think if you look at the kind of overall geopolitics of why we consider the Middle East so important, clearly Israel is a major factor.
Okay, so off rip, honestly, this whole thing that once again, this quote unquote idea of like quote unquote U.S. interests, it's like he keeps looking at like, and people keep doing this in general. It's not just Glenn. It's not just Glenn. They say like, oh well, this is not in the interest of the U.S. And I'm like, motherfucker. This Trump guy, his administration, they don't work for Americans, like the American citizens, the country, the flag, the law, the laws, the rules. They don't fucking work for that. That's patently obvious. Granted, I have like bigger, grandiose conspiracy ideas about all this stuff, but like on the surface, there's obviously these guys don't serve that, right? They don't serve the rules, the laws, the people. Even the structures of government, they don't care about that either, right? That's blatant. Am I tripping on that one? Anyone?
No, it's obvious.
I could argue it the other way. With the Pico.
That they overly follow the
Sykes
rules?
and Pico thing. No, as in this is them doing work for the American people by keeping the Ottoman Empire separated, and then also.
You think that was that? Wait! Do you think that's in Trump's mind when he's behaving? Is that in Marco Rubio's mind?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. But I'm saying that is considered an interest to make sure that Islam cannot unite.
It's the same as the Monroe Doctrine.
Rise up again.
I get it, but it's the same as the Monroe Doctrine stuff.
Okay.
It's just not.
Okay.
Fair.
Put that to the side. Put that to the side.
Okay.
Him saying it's not the oil is bullshit. The petrodollar is all about making sure that the Middle East keeps producing the fucking oil and selling it to us cheap, and we keep reserving ours. So once they deplete all of the Middle East oil, we still have ours. That's why it's cheap. It's not really any cheaper, but it's cheap comparable to the point to where us actually, once we start actually digging it up and start needing it, it becomes stupid expensive.
Okay, but once again, that's almost flowing towards, once again, U.S. interests, quote unquote, where it's like about the citizen that can't afford $10 a gallon for gas, right? But guess who can? Trump, Rubio, Vance, like these guys.
No, I'm arguing like
they
Glenn,
can afford it.
not you.
No,
I'm saying Glenn is saying that the oil is not the reason why we're there. It absolutely is. And
it could be a part of it.
I
think. I don't think it fully is.
I think he's saying Israel's the sole reason. With his logic, that's the one reason why we care about the Middle East.
Yeah, and his reasoning is about
I don't
U.S.
agree
interests.
with that at all.
No, I agree with you on that. It's just, once again, his core reasoning is that there is no interest for there's no interest for those guys because Look at like,
If you're a real Christian, you
come
understand
on,
that
dude.
you have roots
Please,
in Israel
Harrison, please.
too. I'm just saying. You're
Okay.
not a real Christian. You're an atheist. You're a Gnostic. You're a Gnostic piece of shit.
Gnostic. Shut up. But that was actually funny. No, but like his argument is that there is no interest for the U.S. and he puts it in terms of, in my opinion, he puts it in terms
Except
of
for Israel.
no. Well, yes, but like he's saying there's no benefit to him. Like, oh, Iran can't attack America. Iran can't do this to America. So there's no point in all this for the U.S. being there. And the idea is like, I think these guys would let American citizens get fucking attacked for their own aims or goals or whatever fucking reason. It's like that's not their interests. Sure, the average American, their interest is not being sought out over there. I agree with that. But do you think the Trump administration, the Biden administration, the Bush administration, the Obama administration, does anyone think those guys are actually caring about the average American in regards to their behaviors? Does anyone actually think that? If you think that, like, please prove it to me.
I believe,
please.
I believe it is 100% in our interest as Americans, normal citizens, for our government to be over there to control the oil and keep the Muslim
What is their mindset?
And the Muslim population quelled from uniting to a fightable size. I believe that is an interest of American citizens. I'm pretty sure you're going to disagree with that, but that's fine.
Let's try this again. The government apparatus, the people that occupy the White House right now, are they acting in the average American's interest? Do you believe that?
To an extent.
No. Listen, if let's say an American wants a Happy Meal, but Trump wants 1 million Happy Meals, and one Happy Meal falls off the fucking truck when they're shipping it to Trump. You can say that's American interest all you want, but what is their motives? Is to have all the Happy Meals, right? In that little metaphor, right? It's for a certain group, clique, whatever you want to call it, of people, not for actual American interests.
Andros will not have the
Does that make
Holy
sense?
Land ever. I guarantee it. We're gonna fucking bomb
Not
the
shit by
out of you
accident.
fuckers.
Not
No, we're gonna
ancillary,
shit bomb the
but like
fuck out of you
actually
assholes,
directly.
because you won't shut up with your goddamn Gnostic bullshit and your Muslim nonsense. We're gonna take you down, and we're gonna take you down to Browntown, Chinatown.
But that isn't even
downtown. I have to turn you down anyways, but that was funny. I'm turning you down though. Holy fuck.
But that's not even the point. The point is to make sure that the Ottoman Empire can't become a threat to the West again. It's not that we care. Hold on. It's not that we care about the territory of Jerusalem. It's that's just where.
I don't.
I'm responding to
still
Harris.
not in U.S. interest. Wouldn't the interest be like, hey, let's make sure that they don't have a reason to attack us. Let's try to be diplomatic. Let's try to make sure things are, cohesive to some degree, right? Wouldn't it be something like that direction? No, but they're not.
It has never been.
Has anyone been? They haven't been trying at all. Because that's not the point.
Yes, they have.
No, they have not. And that is not the point.
Yes, they have. The entire existence of our country, the Muslims have been attacking America.
You're out of your fight. Okay, we're moving on, dude. You're in batshit territory again.
No, I'm not. It's fucking history.
You're batshit. You're out of your fucking mind. It's okay. You read it on the internet somewhere.
The Navy was too. And the Navy was too.
Yep, sure, but too late in the day, man. I tried to tell you, you didn't listen. It's okay. We'll repeat it. Anyways, back to Glenn's thing. Yeah. Once again, Glenn, because there's no quote unquote U.S. American citizen, interest there, does not mean like that there's not like individuals, gangster conglomerate from motherfuckers that occupy the government doing things for their own individual and their teammates' behalf. Like, yeah, there's plenty of interest for them there. For sure. And thus they will act on it. We've seen them act on it for, I don't know, our entire lifetimes. We've seen them act on that stuff. So that's a poor argument, in my humble opinion, to think that, like, oh, Trump is doing this to help Americans. He's not fucking
Beautiful real estate.
Trump is not doing this to help Americans. It's not for the sake of protecting America or helping Americans. It's just not. That's bullshit, in my humble opinion. There's no evidence of that. It doesn't make fucking sense the way these guys behave. You can say the same with Netanyahu. Do you think he serves Israeli interests? Look what he's doing. Once again, Israel kind of have like a immunity scapegoat clause or immunity like clause to be like protected narrative wise throughout the entire world, like most of the world. Not all of them, not necessarily Middle East or certain other countries, but like they had kind of a get a free jail card with their behaviors, right? They did some horrendous shit and got away with it. But guess what? Now they look like the bad guys of the world. Now he's fine. He can find a bunker to hide into. But the citizens there, they're fucked. They're the ones eating like the fucking brunt of everything. So it's not on their behalf. As they get bombed day in, day out now by Iran. How was that attack on Iran for their benefit? It's not. Duh. So, yeah. Like, it's beyond stupid to think that these guys act on behalf of the citizens of their country. That's bullshit. Where's the benefit? I don't see any fucking, There's no Calvin Kleins popping up in Iran now. Where's the benefit for America? Like, what? Individuals getting their benefits. Let's hit continue. I can quietly hear Harrison a little bit in the background. Daddy, look, Daddy, look. Sorry, Harrison, I can't do it right now. Sorry, bud. All right.
Oh boy, I didn't hear either one of you clearly on anything, so it's funny as hell.
Fair enough. All right, here we go. Okay, so a couple points to make. I mean, it seems to me a lot of the evidence you're marshaling is like, it's not evidence that Netanyahu's visits actually caused a change in thinking. It's like, obviously, when foreign leaders visit America, they're always hoping to influence, and they're gonna, if they have a 10% chance of influence, they're gonna visit. You know, we're the global superpower. You're still all your work.
By the way, remember Zelensky went to the White House, the Oval Office, and he got essentially embarrassed, right? PR wise, he got embarrassed, but still got everything he wanted. Look at that.
Yeah.
He got everything he wanted while being embarrassed in front of everyone during his White House visit, which means it's not about these fucking personalities or things you see as PR.
I mean, he didn't get to win the war.
No, but like if he's asking for weapons and support and all that stuff, right? He got that. Right? Essentially.
Just when Trump said he was going to end that whole thing, he gave him weapons.
Yeah. NATO takes too much from us.
That's how you end wars.
All right, here's some stuff, NATO. What was Trump saying? NATO takes too much or does too much, and they don't pay into it enough, right? And what does Trump do? Here's some weapons. Stop taking advantage of us. Here, take advantage of us. On paper, that's what that would say, right? Would in regards to Trump, Trump's White House and NATO, right? But in reality, like it isn't him. He's not fighting for U.S. interests. It's something different. It's not for quote unquote U.S. interests. But all right, let's apply.
Correct.
Here we go.
Ahead of you in proving that those visits actually did cause the influence that you're alleging they did. A mere coincidence. I mean, this is like I think the core of a lot of my disagreements with what you're saying conceptually. The mere coincidence of two heads of state, doing something, or the coincidence of, if Saudi Arabia came out right now, and said, "Oh, we are so happy
These are the
that Trump
silos. These are the
is
arguments.
finally doing this regime change in Iran. You know, we've been visiting this X many times a year. We spend, you know, whatever it is, $50 million a year on FARA lobbying Congress to be harsher on Iran." Well, all of that would be equally evidence, just as much evidence of Saudi influence behind this decision as the various data points you're pointing to about Israelis, right? Like, it's like, so you're still, all your work is ahead of you when you point out a coincidence of motives and goals. And it's really, it's like
It's
the
not a
notion of a common
coincidence.
enemy, right? Iran has had this revolutionary government. They hate America. I'll just like grant you the reason they hate America is the
They
1953
hate
coup.
America.
But okay, we agree they hate America. They also hate Israel. One is the great Satan, one is the little Satan. This is their ideology.
Now he's saying
They chant it, they teach
from
it.
Mr. Nuance to Mr. Talking Points. Unbelievable. And someone, like, guess what? There's someone picking his side or Glenn's side in regards to this discussion. No one's fucking looking, it seems like. Are we out of our fucking minds? He's saying it's a, first of all, putting it in the context or the sense of like it's a coincidence that Netanyahu's there. Like, it's not a fucking coincidence. Like, get the fuck out of here. That to me that's absolute bullshit. That is too much dismissing the idea of Israeli government apparatus being a part of U.S. governmental apparatus. There's no way I would just outright dismiss all of the shit. Like, how come we do that? Why do we do this? Why does this happen in regards to society? In regards like picking these fucking totems to like sit under and pray under, instead of like really, like, why not look at all of it and consider certain ideas or possibilities of things? Instead, it's either they have all the influence or none of the influence. It's a coincidence, or he's there to dictate to Trump what to do. It's one or the other, apparently. If you're listening to this fucking discussion, it's fucking ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay. Once again, the great Satan and the little Satan, right? Talking points. Talking fucking points. It's like nothing's going towards anything real, it seems like. This is why I get fucking like butthurt about this stuff, because like I can see where the flaws are, I can see where the mistakes are going to happen. I can see the narrative-based mistakes that are going to happen from all this stuff. In my opinion, at least, like, this is what I think is going to happen. We're going to fuck this shit up. We're going to go the wrong direction, realize they got it wrong, 2 years too late, and then circle back and repeat. And then repeat the fucking bullshit again. In a different avenue, different venue. And it's like, damn, bro, like, I'm fucking tired of that, bro. I'm actually tired of it. All right, I have to leave and come back real fast. Okay. All right. What's up, Bud? Sorry.
School children, etc.
Sorry, Harrison.
Well, we're in a situation now where they have admitted openly. It's not like sketchy CIA intelligence and, some, uranium African mine or an Italian journalist. It's not like Iraq war stuff. It's like Iran has come out and said, we've enriched kilograms of uranium to 60%. The IAEA, which is the neutral UN body that looks into
thank you
nuclear
for telling me they're
proliferation,
neutral, Coleman.
an interested party like the CIA or MI6 that can be overzealous or whatever, has said,
they're so neutral.
The Iranians are telling the truth. They have enriched kilograms of uranium to 60%. They come out and say it on state TV in Iran. Pretty much everyone agrees, including the Iranians, that they've done this. They brag about it. There are zero examples in the history of nuclear proliferation of a state that has enriched kilograms of uranium to 60% and then not gone.
What was that?
How come? I don't know about the number of 60%, but wasn't Tulsi and other people who've spoken said that they weren't making weapons? I don't know what level they made it, but isn't our own government saying that they're not making weapons.
60% is a number I've heard. I think you can make weapons out of it, but it's not like the the nuke level of things. But yeah, like Tulsi, what she said. Yes, we obliterated their nuclear weapon capabilities, and no, they're not close to making one, or they're not attempting to make one. Was the idea? I think it was actually attempting. Right? They're not attempting to make one. And then, but she says like the idea of an imminent threat is based on whatever the president says, which all of that made no sense. Somehow in the same meeting that happened. But this guy, he went from like, this is why you have to be like, sorry, you have to be sharp about these things, and do your fucking homework. To where this guy, this Coleman Hughes guy, went from like, where it like sounded like in words, decent questions, right? I mean, I already know about this guy, so like, he's not gonna move me or trick me, but in words, like, oh, I could see how someone would be like, oh my god, what an interesting question. That's a good question for these people that are screaming Israel about everything, right? But then he follows up with this, where it's like, these are talking points. These are actual these are propaganda style talking points. In my opinion, it's my opinion of what I think the guy's doing. To where it's like, maybe you bought into like him sounding critical for a second, but now he's like feeding you propaganda in the side door, and you might fall for that. I'm just saying, this is where we're at. Actually, this is where we're at. Let's let them keep propagandizing. Here we go. They bragged about it, actually. Here we go.
Brag about it.
Yeah, sure.
There are 0 examples in the history of nuclear proliferation of a state that has enriched kilograms of uranium to 60% and then not gone on to get a bomb. There are literally 0. So if this were like India or Pakistan claiming we're at 60 and we've got kilograms.
It's going to pass to Glenn now, where he has his points that make sense as far as information goes. Here we go.
And then not gone on to get a bomb. There are literally 0. So
like they hold each other up.
If this were like India or Pakistan claiming we're at 60 and we've got kilograms, I wouldn't even believe that they didn't want a bomb. Obviously they're angling for a bomb, right? And so then the question becomes, is it in the U.S. interest for Iran to go nuclear? I would argue, since they're self-identified as our adversaries, it's clearly not in the U.S. interest for us to allow them to get a bomb. And if that's true, then it becomes a matter of, when do you time the intervention, right? It's like, if they're at the 90-yard line, do we wait till we detect them sprinting towards the finish to weaponize a bomb? I don't think that makes sense. I mean, obviously Americans are traumatized by the Iraq war experience, where we were told there was going to be WMD Iraq. We sent our boys to die, and we spent all this money, and bam, there's no WMD. It's like, this was actually, I consider, a kind of psychological trauma to the American psyche. But if you actually look at the whole history of the CIA's efforts to keep tabs on nuclear proliferation around the world, they far more often have made the opposite mistake. CIA thought the Soviet Union would get a bomb in the mid 1950s. They were 5 years ahead of schedule. They got it in 49. The CIA was surprised in 1964 when China got a nuclear weapon. Israel was ahead of the CIA schedule when they got a bomb in 1967. India's nuclear test in the mid 70s surprised the CIA. South Africa hid their entire nuclear arsenal from the CIA for 14 years successfully. That's South Africa. And obviously the most important example was after the Gulf War, 1991, where we discover that Saddam Hussein, his nuclear program is way further advanced than any intelligence estimate had it before the Gulf War. And then in 1998, once again, the Indians test a nuclear bomb, totally surprised the CIA, right? So there are just far more examples of the CIA underestimating and not being aware that countries have made the final sprint towards a nuclear bomb. We can't wait for that.
Okay. So first of all, you mentioned Iraq.
So what are you advocating for, Mr. Robot? Mr. Robot, what are you advocating for? They're sprinting. We have to stop them. Like, well, what do you mean? In what way? How?
Since 1979.
Weren't they in a deal already? Like, for some reason, that has still not been brought up. Right?
We paid Saddam to try to kill them. He failed.
Is Harrison still going? That's crazy, man. You okay, dude?
Taking over his airspace, and now
I got your back, little bud. Don't worry.
They're assholes, man.
Me and you, music buddies. All right. All right, here we go.
Okay.
So right now, right
so,
now, Daddy's doing a video.
First of all,
so
you mentioned Iraq, and of course, that does shape people's perceptions, as it should, because we relied into a war in the Middle East based on exactly the same arguments that are being made now about Iran, by exactly the same people, by exactly the same ideologies. And so obviously it's like, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And so people are saying,
George Bush,
rightly so, and most Americans oppose the war, I think in large part for this reason, we don't see Iran as a real threat. And it's because not just the experience in Iraq, we've been lied to into wars by our governments continually, including in Vietnam, when we were told the Gulf of Tonkin was an incident where the North Vietnamese had attacked American ships. None of that turned out to be true. We were told that in Libya, that it wasn't a regime change war. It was just to protect people in Benghazi, and it turned into a regime change war that destroyed that country. There's a lot of reasons why Americans are extremely skeptical about what the U.S. government is telling them, and there's a lot of good reasons to be. As far
Glenn. One name for you. It's the name of a country. I'm gonna call it Venezuela, where that could have easily led to something more crazy. It could have. Their kidnapping of Maduro could have been crazier than but it's just held in a different context. Actually, I made that argument today to shout out to Captain Obvious, who's seems like a good dude or lady. I don't know their gender. I assume a dude. And we were arguing about the Israeli influence in regards to like Charlie Kirk or whatever, right? But Venezuela is something where, where there was no big deal made about it. In fact, there were people celebrating them blowing up random boats, while also claiming that the government lies to us about, WMDs, or it's Israel influencing us to do this in Iran. But they're also in support of random boats being blown up in the middle of the fucking ocean. And at the operation in Venezuela, where they took Maduro and went away, and they killed people while they were doing. They bombed first, right? They bombed, then they grabbed Maduro up and took him away, right? That was a successful operation, according to them, to a lot of people. Unfortunately, a lot of people, at least on the internet, right? And it's like, well, what happened to those lessons about Iraq war stuff or any of this, to where they have questions about things? There's very little questions, except for motherfuckers that were angling politically, or hopefully free thinkers. Right? Yeah, the Kokolinski's angling politically, in my humble opinion. People like him. And there were some people that were like just against like creepy, weird, devil worshipping policy in general, right? But most fall in that category, but probably not most. And then there were the people that I supported Trump, right? A lot of them stuck by his side in regards to that operation. I'm just saying. So, like, yeah, this is way creepier than I think Glenn's living on. And in a different way. It isn't like purposely towards one government called Israel or one country called Israel. And then Coleman Hughes is like, he's going to relinquish everything because he's a weirdo. he will be like, well, isn't this, look what they said. They said death to America. See? I think he's in that boat. Unfortunately. Little fuckboy. Anyways, all right, let's hit play. Here we go. It makes you want to like just listen to woo-woo stuff instead of this bullshit. This politics is fucking lame. Lame as shit. But that's where people are at, so thus I'm talking about it. In my way. Here we go.
far as like evidence for Israel's role in the decision to go to war, again, I mean, other than a confession in secret by Trump where he doesn't realize he's being taped, but actually is, and I can show you a recording where Trump admits to Melania, you know what, I'm going to war even though I don't want to, but I'm doing it for Israel. I can't show you smoking gun prove it. It doesn't exist. But there's some pretty strong evidence, and beyond everything I just said, like the Joe Kent, who was appointed by President Trump to one of the most sensitive positions in the entire U.S. government. He was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center with the highest top secret clearance.
He was?
Resigned just last week and said Iran was never an imminent threat to us. We went to war because of Israeli influence. You can talk to people in the Pentagon up and down the U.S. government who will tell you the same thing.
Like that.
I'm not saying it means they're telling you the truth, but it's certainly strong evidence when people at the highest levels of our government who have the most sensitive access to the most sensitive data are coming and saying that this is a war for Israel and that Iran posed no imminent threat. You have to at least count that as evidence. As far as Netanyahu's visits, yes, Trump and the American president will meet with leaders. You don't meet with a leader 7 times. It's so off the charts. It's kind of like U.S. aid to Israel. Trump didn't meet with any other leader more than twice. And the reason is because Netanyahu was coming. And his mission, and it's not just last year, it's been for decades. You can go back to 2003 and 2004 when we were in Iraq, and there were a lot of neocons saying, once we're done with Baghdad, we're moving on to Tehran. This has been at the top of the pro-Israel agenda, the Israeli agenda, for many decades. And let me just find.
So he brings up U.S. officials and says it's part of the Israeli agenda. It's like, you see what I'm saying? Like, where, like, yes, Israel is involved in these agendas for sure, right? But like, what you brought up as evidence for that is U.S. officials saying we want to do this. You see what I'm saying? As in, like, maybe they're part of the same creepy policy stuff. Maybe they're a part of that too. But instead, it becomes Israeli agenda, even though you're talking about Americans doing it. But yeah, God.
I'll bet that Larry Fink has probably met with Trump more times than 7.
Well, only thing that counts is official, Oval Office visits. That's all that counts. Dinners don't count, right? In office, out of office don't count, right? Phone calls. Do phone calls count? Maybe not. Like, there's a whole bunch of, once again, hands on the creepy thing, on the creepy actions that happen in the world. There's a lot of hands involved in that.
How many times Epstein meet with him? How did he influence that?
Well, clearly that was for Israel too, stopping the Epstein files. It's just like, see, like that, right? Like, Israel does have an influence in regards to Epstein files, in my opinion. They do. But, like, to solely focus that direction, like we're mongoloid, almost, like, in regards to, like, our level of thinking towards, like, simple totems and silos to lean towards instead of, man, if you were the bad guy in the movie, wouldn't you, like, expand your horizons in regards to actions you do or teammates you work with, just to make sure you have more security in regards to your actions, right? Wouldn't the fictional bad guy in a movie do more than what people are describing as real people doing? Right? Isn't that a little bit, isn't that wild? I don't know. Harrison, are you saying anything interesting at this point right now?
No.
He's not? Okay.
Yeah,
You know what? You know what?
Oh, anyway.
I'll take your word for it. Let's hit play. Here we go.
Finally address
Wait, real quick, before you play it, hold on.
You good?
And something I noticed is, like, remember back when everyone was blaming everything on the CIA, like absolutely everything? It's like ever since a few years ago when it became the trend to blame Israel and the Mossad, now all of a sudden, like, nobody gives any blame to the CIA. Like, for example, the Epstein stuff. Like, they just say it's just a Mossad thing, but it's like clearly the CIA was involved, Mossad was involved, different, all types of people, all types of intelligence apparatuses.
Well, actually, funny enough, a lot of times they'll bring up CIA, but say, oh, well, the CIA is owned by Israel, or the
Oh,
agents
yeah.
are, or the apparatus controlling the CIA is owned by Israel. Like they'll actually do that nowadays. Yeah. But you know what? Hey, listen, guys. My intellectual door is open. Pause. For any whatever. For like, if you guys can prove it, please let it be known. It's a tough thing to prove, by the way. So like, just make it make sense. Don't like ignore certain things to make your main point make sense. If that makes sense to you, to anyone. So I would ask for it from any person, like saying like, well, Jordan, Israel is like the main focus here. They are the drivers of things. Like, well, okay, make your point, but don't ignore certain things to make sure that it is Israel. You know what I'm saying? But all right.
Israel ate my homework, and they deleted my work.
I mean, listen, when I died in Apex that one day, bro, very sure they were Israeli, and they had hacks. They were aimbotting. All right, here we go.
This has been at the top of the pro-Israel agenda, the Israeli agenda, for many decades.
And seemingly
And let
the
me just
US
finally address
too.
the nuclear issue, because
Then.
everything you said about the nuclear issue in Iran, I think is very contestable. For example, Iran has the absolute right under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty to enrich uranium up to all sorts of amounts that they've never exceeded. Israel doesn't even belong to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. You want to talk about a country that has a secret
fair
nuclear
point.
weapon stash that has
And
never been
I would bring this up
inspected.
too.
Start with Israel. Iran is a party to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and all of the inspection that entails. They agreed to massive, more intrusive inspection as part of that Iran deal, where the IAEA was all over the place in Iran, certifying that they weren't crossing the nuclear threshold. Unfortunately, that all went away once President Trump withdrew from the nuclear deal. But as far as the nuclear program is concerned, 2 months before Trump bombed with huge bunker busters all 3 of their nuclear facilities last year, Tulsi Gabbard went to the Senate under oath and said the consensus of the intelligence community that she leads, is that Iran has not tried to pursue a nuclear weapon. They're not actively pursuing a nuclear weapon. There's been no decision by the government to pursue a nuclear weapon.
Revised.
2 months later, when Trump went and bombed those facilities, and he was asked, but your own director of national intelligence said they're not even trying to get a nuclear weapon. He said, I don't care what she says. Okay, maybe Iran was, even though Tulsi Gabbard didn't know about it, even though she leads all the intelligences. Trump himself said, and you can go on the White House site right now, that operation completely and totally obliterated Iran's entire nuclear program. So even if they were headed toward this danger zone before that, the US government itself, Trump himself said exactly that. It's still up on the website. And when journalists said to him, okay, so we've completely and totally obliterated their nuclear program, so that means like 6 months from now or a year from now, you're not going to come back and say, oh, we have to go attack Iran again because maybe we didn't totally and completely obliterate it. He said the whole, he accused the people of raising that question of like disrespecting our pilots and their bravery. He called it fake news. On the White House website, it still says it's fake news. Anyone who questions whether Iran has any residual nuclear capability. So suddenly out of the blue, we're going to now go again and have a war with Iran over this nuclear program that we were told 8 months ago the United States completely and totally obliterated. I mean, that's one of the reasons why a lot of people think Israel has such a significant role here, because none of the government's claims beyond Israel as to why we had to go start a major war with Iran make any sense. And then the last...
See, that's the funny thing, Glenn, is that if initially I agree. They're saying, at least in words on podium, saying, well, we obliterated their nuclear program or whatever the fuck, right? Their nuclear capabilities. And it would take them a long time to get it back, right? But then, as Glenn pointed out earlier about the Marco Rubio statement coming out and saying, well, we had to attack them because Israel attacked, because Israel was going to attack, right? That was the idea that Marco Rubio was saying, that Glenn repeated. It's like, why can't you see that as possibly a play too? As an excuse to do what they were doing, to do what they're doing. How come that's not considered as an excuse? As much as, like, well, they're 2 days away from nuclear, capabilities, yada yada yada. How come that's not considered as like, man, what if they're playing us with this narrative? What if they're bullshitting? What if they're just making up excuses to go do something? We're not strangers to that as Americans that pay attention to politics, right? And geopolitics and foreign policy of the U.S. We're no strangers to people lying to us to get us to do, to get, to give an excuse for why they're doing what they're doing. We're no strangers to that. So, like, why couldn't that be a play too? And that's what I'm talking about. Once again, I think Israel is intricately involved in plenty of foreign policy things with the U.S. and outside of even domestic policy. But to turn off our critical thinking for the sake of following this fucking totem in regards to reducing our thinking down to a matter-of-factness instead of a questioning thing, we are so fucked if we do that. And yet people are doing that, and I don't think Glenn would call that out. I don't think he would. And that is very sad. A very sad state of affairs for the world of politics. But, all right, let's keep playing. Here we go.
That's the show. I will say, like, proliferation is a big concern. All these countries have got nuclear weapons, including North Korea. And to me, Coleman, this is like the hub of the issue. This is really the key of the issue is when the United States got nuclear weapons, and then the Soviet Union got nuclear weapons, and then France and the UK got nuclear weapons, and looked like Brazil and Argentina wanted nuclear weapons because of the tensions between them, and it became a huge issue. We decided as a world that we wanted to make non-proliferation a major goal of humanity. And that's why the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty was created. Unfortunately, Israel didn't sign on to it. But I agree with you completely. It is dangerous. But this is the problem, is that we, the United States, along with Israel, but mostly the United States, has sent a signal to the world that if you are a rational leader that wants to protect your country, the only rational choice you have is to try and get nuclear weapons. Because we've created a world where if you don't have nuclear weapons, we can attack you at any time. We can invade your country and nab your president and say we have the right to arrest him like we did in Venezuela. We can attack you in Iraq or Libya or Syria or all over the world. But if you do have nuclear weapons, no matter how crazy you are, like North Korea, we will never mess with you. We will never, ever mess with you. And I don't blame. I think Iran made a mistake in not getting nuclear weapons and not actually making a decision, as the intelligence community said, to get nuclear weapons. So if we're worried about this threat that Iran poses, we should be asking, why is it that they supposedly pose a threat to us? And especially since war is the last resort, we should be asking that question. And there's no need for Iran to be a threat to the United States. I don't even think they are. And so, yes, this is not definitive proof that we did it for Israel, but it's not a coincidence that we're at war with Israel's greatest enemy and the enemy that Israel has wanted the United States to go and take out for many decades.
Okay, I want to address point by point.
Well, okay. I mean, he already said whatever. Let's get it. I think it's equally bad. Sorry, people driven by shitty pathologies. I think that's the main problem here. But if you point out like, oh, Iran calls the U.S. the Great Satan and Israel the Little Satan, even by their own, I guess, diagnosis, if you use the statements that Glenn Greenwald is going with, even that would say almost like vice versa roles, although I would call that incorrect too, personally. Like, that's incorrect too. The U.S. apparatus is not the Great Satan. They're just a part of the team, that's all. As individuals, along with other individuals across the globe, doing horrendous shit everywhere. But all right, let's hear Coleman Hughes' response. Here we go.
Out for many decades.
Okay, I want to address point by point. You started by citing Joe Kent as basically the extent of the actual evidence that exists on Trump's motives in these actions. Joe Kent resigned. He made these allegations that Trump was influenced by the Israel lobby and so forth. Joe Kent went on Tucker Carlson in the aftermath of that and speculated that Israel was the one that tried to kill Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Now, to understand how absolutely stupid and insane that conspiracy theory is, you just have to consider what we talked about earlier of how aggressively pro-Israel Trump has been. Like he is singular in that respect. He is, there's a town in Israel named after Trump. They like Trump much more than they like Netanyahu in Israel.
I think they did. I think Joe Kent did less in regards to Butler. Well, he brought up the idea of foreign, possible foreign actors involved in these assassination attempts, and I think he did a lot more towards Charlie Kirk than he did even with the Butler Trump assassination attempt. As far as I understand, like fuck, we're talking about this shit. It's crazy. All right, here we go. But like he left it kind of vague and maybe implied certain things. And no, actually, no. Fuck, I'm wrong because he did bring up. Listen, Trump doesn't care about himself. He's very courageous, right? It's more so Trump's worried about his family getting hurt, so that's why he would bend the knee to Israel. He didn't say that directly. He didn't say Israel directly, but he's like implying it. He's implying it. So okay, fair enough. Fair enough, Coleman Hughes. Fair enough. Here we go.
Like Trump, they might damn near like Trump more than they like Ben Gurion at this point. So the idea that Israel would have tried to kill Trump on the campaign trail, to me,
it's not a good argument for it, but
tells me that something is going seriously wrong in Joe Kent's mind. I don't know if it's mental illness or something like that, some kind of paranoid
like him
tendency.
saying this is crazy.
But I
Yo,
for that reason, I do not view him as a credible source of information alone. You add on top of that,
ill. Stop.
I know damn well if I was resigning from counterterrorism, I was that high up in power, and I was saying I know for a fact the United States president was influenced by lobbyists. That statement would be followed by a whole bunch of receipts. I was in this meeting, and this is the name of the lobbyist who said this.
Levin argument too.
0 receipts we've gotten from Joe Kent. It's it's impossible for me to think that he has all this evidence and he's withholding it. And that in combination with his weird conspiracy theories makes me just totally discredit him as a source.
He's a robot.
So as far as I'm concerned, there is 0 credible evidence at this point that Trump made this decision because of Israel. And as an evidence-based person, I have to be like, show me the evidence. So secondly, you said the Tulsi, you referenced the Tulsi Gabbard testimony last year about Iran, where she said that Iran has not made the decision to get a nuclear bomb. I noticed though that you left out the sentence she said literally right after that, which is she said 2 things right after that. One, she said that Iran has the highest level of uranium enrichment in its history, and that its level of enriched uranium is, quote, direct quote, unprecedented for a country without nuclear weapons. In other words, there's no purpose to have this amount of uranium enriched at this level unless you have a medium or long-term goal to get a nuke, right? And then
or deterrence, which was the main point of Glenn Greenwald in the first place, right? You can have high levels just to showcase, like, hey, we'll do it if you guys keep pushing us. If you threaten our existence or our survival, we might do this. So that is a reason that this robot will not bring up this 5-foot-tall robot. All right, area
level unless you have a medium or long-term goal to get a nuke, right? And then the other thing she said, again, like within 30 seconds of the part you quoted of her testimony, is that in recent years, the taboo in Iranian politics on openly discussing pursuing nukes has weakened, which makes the pursuit of a nuke more likely. And so when you put all of her comments in context, it seems like what she's saying is Iran is on the 10-yard line. They have not yet made the decision to sprint to the end zone, which is very different than saying Iran is in general not angling for a nuke, right? So Another thing I would say that's I think really important to keep in mind
This guy's
about
a
Iran
robotic
is I guess two
propagandist.
things. One is I very much question the rationality of the Iranian regime. There are many data points I can bring up. You know, if I have no reason to disbelieve the Asif Merchant jury conviction, which found that Iran supported an attempt to assassinate Trump or Joe Biden or Nikki Haley around 2024 or whenever it was. That's an extremely stupid decision to make, purely from a rational self-preservation point of view, because successfully killing Trump potentially could have led to a regime change war that could have led to the deaths of everyone at the top of. There's like a definitely non-zero chance America would have responded eventually with overwhelming force. You look at some of the other decisions the Iranian regime has made over the years. 2018, Iran has one of its own diplomats in Vienna like smuggle bombs into Paris at this rally that has like 100,000 people at it and British members of parliament, and try to detonate a bomb, right? That could have killed 100 people. It could have killed a British diplomat. I mean, that's the sort of thing that rather backfired on ISIS when they did it in France, which led the world to form a coalition and take all of, much of ISIS's territory in Iraq and Syria. You add to that the example from 2011 when the Iranian.
It's like, well, listen, these guys were going to do it anyways, but you know what? Hey, if ISIS wants to motivate us a little bit more, fine. Thanks, ISIS. Almost like the Netanyahu visits. All right, here we go.
Take all of, much of ISIS's territory in Iraq and Syria. You add to that the example from 2011 when the Iranians hatched a plan to, murder for hire plot in Washington, D.C. to kill this Saudi diplomat by blowing up a restaurant in Washington, D.C. Now, again, I put myself up in the IRGC. I'm an Iranian loyalist. I love Iran, whatever, but I'm being rational. What do I say when I'm in that room? Hold on, guys. Are you really telling me we're going to blow up a restaurant in the capital of the United States in order to kill one Saudi diplomat and kill who knows how many American civilians? Don't you think this could backfire? Don't you think this could lead to all of us dying? This is not a regime. I mean, and then finally.
So, first, once again, he's saying these things without really substantiating them. Hopefully, he has more than a Reuters or AP report, or a report from the U.S. State Department or Homeland Security or Department of Defense, right? A DOD memo or something like that. You better have more than that. I've not heard these things, so maybe it's legit. I have no problems with looking at Iran sideways. I already look at them sideways and their government and all that stuff. But you still have to you can't just say them because those are things that most people probably don't hear about. I'll be honest. I've never heard of them, so maybe it's just me, but hopefully he could explain those things in detail. All right, here we go.
The sum total of the Iranians' actions have led to half of the regime leaders being killed recently, right? So if you're talking about deterrence and the psychology of whether heads of state or regimes are rationally interested in their own self-preservation, I really don't see that as being true of the Iranian regime.
All right. A few things about this. I actually have to start with the last point, but I'll just go in order so I don't forget things. You said, look, Trump is singularly pro-Israel. So it makes sense that he kind of stands out, that there's streets named after him in Israel. And to that point, I would say you're absolutely right. The Israelis absolutely worship Trump. There are signs all over Israel venerating him, saying that he's the greatest friend Israel has ever had. They want to give him awards that aren't even supposed to go to non-Israelis, but they're so enamored of how dedicated he has been to Israel. And I don't blame them. If I were Israeli, I would also love Trump. Now, he's not nearly as loved in the country that he's supposed to be representing among the population whose interests he's supposed to be serving, because he has been very devoted to the interest of Israel and to Israelis. And I don't blame him. Now, I would say I don't blame them for loving Trump. Now, I will say that it is kind of odd because back in 2016, when this whole Never Trump movement emerged among lifelong Republicans, if you go and look at what the catalyst for it was, Trump had made several statements about Israel and Palestine that really disturbed the hardcore pro-Israel neocons who became the Never Trumpers, like Bill Kristol and David Frum and that whole crowd. And he was saying things like, we've been way too pro-Israel. We have to be more even-handed in the relationship between Israel and Palestine, because otherwise we can't arbitrate a two-state solution, which is in our interest. That's what really alarmed these neocons. And Trump learned, especially when he was running for president in 2024, when he wasn't just running for president, he was basically running to stay out of prison for life. If Trump had lost that election, the Democrats had won, Trump was going to prison for life. He needed to do whatever he could to curry favor with the pro-Israel crowd.
We don't know
and
that.
he did. And that's why so many of them were so devoted to him, even though they began by backing Ron DeSantis, who they viewed as a much more natural ally. And so Trump sold himself to the Israel lobby. He was desperate to win that election, not just because he wanted to be president, but because he wanted to stay out of jail. And from the start, you
he's
look
like
at this
Alex
agenda.
Jones.
You know, we go back to what we were talking about. Instituting speech codes on American universities to protect Israel, task force to combat anti-Semitism, this and this and this for Israel, meeting with Netanyahu more times than anybody else, bombing Iran twice in conjunction with Israel. It has been an extremely pro-Israel agenda, which is precisely why there are signs in Jerusalem and in Tel Aviv that say, thank you, Trump, for making Israel great again, because they understand how devoted to their interests he's been. Let me just say something about Joe Kent, because like I said, I don't think Joe Kent's statement should be taken as gospel. They're not dispositive. The idea that he's supposed to present evidence, I think, is a bit unreasonable, because whatever evidence he could present by definition would be top secret. And they're already looking to
that's what Joe
imprison him
Kent
the
said,
way they
yeah.
do with every whistleblower, from Daniel Ellsberg to Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning, and anyone who has ever been in government who reveals government wrongdoing or government secrets that they don't want the public to know. They try and destroy and imprison them. Excuse me. So I don't blame Joe Kent, who's already under FBI investigation, for not showing us all the top secret documents that he pilfered from the government when he left. But as I said, this is somebody who
pilfered them? You can't say
devoted
that.
his entire life to defending America. He went and fought in all of these wars.
Oh, he did?
That the people who are now attacking him and demonizing him wanted to happen, but wouldn't put themselves or their own kids or their own family in harm's way. He went and fought in these wars. He lost his wife in these wars. He then went to work because Trump appointed him at the highest levels of the federal government. The minute he says something about Israel, now we're supposed to say he's mentally ill, he's a sick person, he has some kind of dark heart, and all these other attacks. You go back and look at what has been said about every American whistleblower. They immediately, when Daniel Ellsberg revealed that the US government was lying about the war in Vietnam, said he's a Kremlin agent. They broke into his psychoanalyst office because they wanted to present him as some, degenerate who is psychosexually twisted. This is the playbook on every single whistleblower. And I'm going to need a lot more before I conclude that Joe Kent is mentally ill, before I completely discount what he says. And like I said, Coleman, he is not the only one who has been saying that America goes to war for Israel, that American foreign policy is dominated by Israel. American politicians at the highest level, including presidents, have been saying that for decades. Scholars have written books on this. This is not something that Joe Kent woke up and invented one day. And I think these kind of character attacks on him as a way of disproving what he has said are a bit ugly.
Now, Glenn, I'm just going to say, based on what I keep hearing from people in regards to their argumentation for why are things happening the way they're happening, they bring up Israel quite a bit. And, to be honest, that is an easy out. Once again, that could be conspiratorial. Forgive me for going there. It could be conspiratorial, but like the idea, like, the U.S. apparatus will use the idea like, well, it's Israel. It's not us. It's Israel doing this, and they're guiding us towards a certain direction. And in fact, we'll give you all the little tidbits of quote unquote evidence to get you to think that. Well, even like then you have the idea of Joe Kent, where whether it's conspiratorial, as in like he's sent out to do this, or he just looks around and he sees like this is what people are saying. Okay, fine, I'll say it too. Now, once again, like I understand there's maybe he's saying like maybe there is classified information that he can't say out loud, but that is for people that put their hand in the air and say, "Hey, man, I don't ever want to be tricked again." They can't just take that for granted. They can't just do that, right? Like, oh, he has the evidence, but he can't say it because he's under because of top secret, whatever, right? He might get in trouble for saying it. That can't be taken as a truth of reality. Sorry, humbly, in my opinion, you can't. I don't think that's. I think that's not what we should be thinking as regular people that don't have access to any of this stuff, right? Of their motives or anything, any of this. If there's like some sort of backroom deal or backroom idea to, send Joe Kent out there and to start saying certain things, we don't have that information. We don't know. So all I beg for is critical thinking. Watch me and other people that have been saying similar things. Like, watch us be correct and just be like, fuck, we were fucking saying this, weren't we? Was anyone listening? But who knows? I'll be fair. Open question. I guess we'll have to find out how much influence Israel does have over U.S. Foreign and apparently domestic policy. Here we go.
Let me just address the final point, which is about the irrationality of Iran, because this is something that we've been told forever. Iran is like this religiously fanatical, doomsday, apocalyptic cult. They don't really care about their own lives. They're willing to sacrifice their own lives because they believe in the afterlife is much better and that they become martyrs and they're willing
72
to engage in
virgins.
mass suicide. I personally haven't seen any evidence of that. In fact, if you go and talk to foreign policy experts throughout the West or even military strategists now, they will tell you how smart and strategic and cunning and pragmatic Iran has been, not irrational and suicidal. When the Israelis assassinated people on their own soil that they invited to Iran for their inauguration, and then when Israel bombed their consulate in Syria and blew the whole thing up, their response was incredibly restrained. They used their slowest missiles, their oldest missiles. They didn't punish Israel in the way they did during the 12-day war, and that they're doing now. They purposely held back because they didn't want to spiral up the escalation ladder. You look at who's been fighting wars and bombing people throughout the Middle East. It's not Iran starting wars. It's been Israel starting wars. It's been the United States starting wars. We invaded a country right on the Iranian border. And all this stuff about, Iran wanted to use violence here. I mean, are you kidding? You know the history of the CIA. I don't need to go through all that. And not just the distant history of the CIA or of the Mossad. We've blown things up all the time. Israel began as a country through classic acts of terrorism. They blew up the King David Hotel, led by Menachem Begin, who became prime minister of that country, and killed dozens of British people and all sorts of innocent Palestinians as well, because they were engaged in classic acts of terrorism. We've funded groups all over the world that engage in exactly these kind of tactics of blowing things up, of killing people. The Contras in Nicaragua. We were even on Al-Qaeda and ISIS side in the dirty war that we waged against Syria. This is not evidence of irrationality. This is evidence of a country willing to use violence. But there's no way you can be an American citizen
in the country
and point to some other country and be like, look at how much violence they use. Look at how irrational they are, when everything that you've said about Iran is something the United States and Israel has done 1,000 times over and even far worse. I don't think Iran is an irrational country. I don't think they want to be nuked off the face of the earth. I think even if they got nuclear weapons, which again, if they were rational, they would have gotten nuclear weapons. I think the one irrational thing they've done is they didn't get nuclear weapons and as a result are left defenseless. But if they had nuclear weapons, the idea that they would commit mass suicide instantaneously by using it against Israel or the United States, knowing it would ensure their complete obliteration, there's nothing in the Iranian behavior that suggests that they're eager to die in mass like that. This is what we were told about Iraq. They would pass nuclear weapons to Al-Qaeda because they don't care about their lives. And then even if the United States retaliated and destroyed all of Iraq, they wouldn't care. This is the kind of fear-mongering and warmongering rhetoric that we've been subjected to for a long time, and it merits extreme amounts of skepticism.
Was in Pakistan, wasn't he?
Okay, so first off, my point about Joe Kent, not really a character attack, but Like, I don't know what he's like personally, but if I hear anyone say that they think Israel tried to kill Donald Trump, immediately my opinion of their intellect and sanity and in the degree to which they're in touch with reality
Like
would
Iran,
go
though,
down.
isn't that crazy?
And I'm
too?
not saying that because I don't have sympathy for whistleblowers. I actually do have a lot of sympathy for whistleblowers. If they blow the whistle responsibly on government overreach, I'm totally for that, and I'm against characterist assassinations. I'm
Guy's a
against what they
fucking
try to do
robot,
to Ellsberg. So
honestly.
don't let me in with that motive. What I'm saying is anyone who says something as insanely illogical as Israel tried to get Trump killed, clearly there is something going on making that person irrational. Right. So that was my point about Joe Kent. It's not like a character
This
assassination.
guy's a
per
robot.
se.
He survived.
Um,
Coleman Hughes has a show and survives as a commentator. I don't mean like his life. I mean like as a personality. The personality survives and has room to say the things he says because of us, because we're dumb and we're weak. Otherwise, this guy wouldn't see the fucking light of day in regards to telling us what the world should be thinking. This guy is a robot. A fucking robot with bad programming. And yet, here he is. Here he is. That's our fault. That's where I can say, regular people. We put up with way too much, man. We do. And thus, the little bot motherfuckers take over. Or they get spots in regards to that. Because they move in a fucking slick way. Pause. But anyways, here we go. Yeah, I'm just saying.
when my point about Iran is irrational, well, yeah, they are. I'm not making a moral point. I'm not saying that. So, like, for instance, if Mike Tyson goes up to a guy in a bar and picks a fight, that's not necessarily irrational because he's Mike Tyson, right? If
What?
all 5'7" of me, no training in martial arts,
Damn, I was
go and
close.
pick a fight with
I
a
was
guy in a
close.
bar, that's incredibly irrational of me vis-a-vis my own self-preservation. So my point in pointing out all of the terror attacks that Iran backed.
I mean, that just explained how robotic this guy, like his logic is circuitry. It's not thought. It's not actual thought. Hey, what if that guy was banging your wife or something, or your girlfriend, or your boyfriend, whatever? What if your partner was cheating on you with that person? But you're only 5'7". So what do you do about it? Right? Someone might do that. And in fact, I call that stupid, but I get why you did that. Very stupid, but I get why you did it. Just like all the things we see Iran doing right now. You can make a case. I wouldn't make the case, but like people can make the case that like, oh, they are actually acting in self-preservation. You can make that case, I think, pretty easily on the surface, right? I would hope that the religious guys would live for more than just self-preservation, but, a lot of motherfuckers are fakers, let's be honest. And the religion is just a style, right? It's a garment of clothing, right? Versus actuality. So thus, I could see why they might move in their, self-preservation. They won't eat bacon, but they might shoot in the face to protect themselves, right? And they'll find whatever passage in their book to make sure that's rational. So, like, but either way, that's Coleman's arguments here are horrendous. You could easily read the possibility that Iran's doing this for survival reasons, right? And that'll be easy rebuttal to this little dweeb, this little robot. Here we go.
Fight with a guy in a bar, that's incredibly irrational of me vis-a-vis my own self-preservation. So my point in pointing out all of the terror attacks that Iran backs all over the world is not to say that like we haven't done bad things, right? My point is irrationality from the point of view of the person.
Rational.
Right? The head of MI5 recently said Iran has tried to consummate like 20 terror attacks on UK soil in the past 3 years. I mean, this is extremely optional behavior, to put it mildly. Most countries around the world that are in Iran's position in the global dominance hierarchy would not dream of doing such things because it would be so irrational of them to pursue given the backlash it would yield. And again,
once again, proof. Some guy in MI5 said it, so thus it must be the case. Is that the rationale? Is he saying if? Like, if that's the case, then these guys are irrational? What is he actually arguing here? Who knows? It's a fucking robot. Here we go.
In the global dominance hierarchy would not dream of doing such things because it would be so irrational of them to pursue given the backlash it would yield. And again, I would submit to you the very fact that the sum total of the Iranian regime's actions has led to so many of them being killed, basically for doing all of this extremely optional behavior, backing terror attacks all around the world, funding and arming proxies all over the Middle East, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria, when they're like not the richest country to be able to do this thing, to do all this to begin with. It all speaks of a certain level of irrationality that actually most regimes around the world don't exhibit. North Korea doesn't exhibit that level of irrationality.
Someone can make the case.
I don't think we can let that have a bomb. And the final point I'll make, and I've taken a lot of your time, so we can wind down to a conclusion. And I have one question to ask you before I let you go, and I'll give you the last word. But I forget the point about are they a jihadist death cult for a moment and just focus on the point of command and control and nuclear proliferation, right? You and I both know, and I've heard you talk about, during the Cold War, there were extremely close calls between America and the Soviet Union where we almost went to nuclear war by accident, right? And those were the modern, most advanced countries in the world with redundant systems of warning, really tightly knit command and control operations.
They had McDonald's.
Look, that's happened. There was the event in Hawaii a couple of years ago where a systems operator in Hawaii thought that he was seeing a missile launch from North Korea to Hawaii. And, that ended up working out because we have so many redundant systems of warning. I absolutely do not trust the Iranian regime, even from the point of view of accidental firings, accidental signals to not accidentally start a nuclear war. If the U.S. and the Soviet Union could come that close, obviously Iran can. And from the U.S. point of view, I agree with you, it's in the Iranian regime's self-interest.
So
it's in any of our adversaries' self-interest for regime preservation, for them to snap their fingers and have a nuclear weapon and insulate their regime. It's not in the U.S. interest as an American, it is not in our interest for nuclear weapons to proliferate to our adversaries or even to our allies. It would be better if Israel didn't have a nuclear weapon and we persuade South Korea and Japan not to go nuclear because they're under our umbrella. From my point of view, the fewer potential points.
Wouldn't it be better if there were no nukes, right? As in no one has them? If you're going to go with fantasies anyways, might as well go with the full thing, right? Like no one has nukes. Whatever, okay. Fair.
Of contact between nuclear states,
Semantics,
basically the better. And so it absolutely is in the American interest to prevent this from happening. And I just don't think that we can trust. There's no ideal time to do it. And I don't even know if it has a high odds of success. So from that point of view, I'm not a cheerleader for it. But I do think that overall, that's my view of it. And so respond to that. And then I'll ask you one more question and give you another chance to respond and then let you go.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I'm going to end it here. I have a feeling I think I said everything that Glenn might say anyways. I could be wrong, but whatever, go watch it on your own. Yeah, the Coleman Hughes guy, he definitely likes to just kind of subtly shoehorn in narratives and propaganda and on and so forth. he is a full shit artist. But he's too robotic to. At best, he'll piss off like the wrong person that he'll get on the show somehow, and those guys will argue, and that'll keep his character flowing still, like keeping him like within the purview of the average audience member or the algorithm itself. But in reality, this guy's a bot. He talks like a robot. His points can be borrowed from anywhere you want to think about in regards to governmental or governmental leaning in a certain direction. He's a nothing burger, actually. You could hear him like trying to put these little narratives in there as he's talking. It's quite interesting to look at, and sad. It's sad that he's hoping for at least 1 or 2 out of 10 people will get hooked and be like, "Oh my god, he's so like rational and smart because he's not emotionally reacting, so he must be like saying the right thing or being correct." Or, "I never heard this before, so he must be correct." That's what he's hoping for. 1 to 2 people that will do that and not be like, "Yo, fuck you." You know? I'm a man of the times. "Fuck you, Israel did it, asshole. You serve Israel, don't you?" Right? But either way, I'm going to leave it there. Another sad discussion between, once again, Coleman Hughes is Coleman Hughes. But I assume that Glenn Greenwald is viewed as like a kind of a heroic, iconic, classic type of character to be your conscience when you can't be there, right? When because guests like the free press or mainstream news or whoever the fuck, because you can't be represented. Glenn Greenwald will do it for you, right? He'll show up and be your conscience for you on these platforms, and I don't think that's a good idea to be thinking through that lens. But they'll do it anyways, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, Jordan, shut the fuck up! Glenn's talking. Get out of Glenn's way. He's pointing out the truth that you don't recognize. That it is Israel did this, Israel did that." Even though it's already been said and talked about and brought up before, but don't worry. Get your therapy out through, I guess, hearing me call out everyone and anything, I guess. Whatever. Let it be known in the comments. Also, please subscribe if you feel like. Also, please share, support, and maybe and hopefully donate to all the links in the description box. Also, please join the Discord if you feel like. All opinions are welcome. We're in that Discord right now, so please do that. And obviously, this video will be shared for you to look at on your own. The free press from Coleman, Conversations with Coleman. I mean, this guy conditioned from the very beginning, and he's a robot, so he's a one with it. He's like he got W's. I'm sure he got a bunch of diplomas and ribbons on his fucking lapel. Throughout his academic career, where he's like, "Man, I must be good at what I'm doing. I must be smart. I must know what I'm talking about. I must know something. That's why I'm here. And you know what? It pays enough. I'll fucking bullshit. Hey, listen, I got past the grandstanding. I got past the diplomas. I got past the trophies. And you know what? Fuck it. It's about survival. Pay me. I'll say what you want." And I say, welcome, Coleman Hughes, to planet Earth. Anyways, here's your video. Most importantly, more than anything else, that's right, if you made it here, most importantly, get this video a thumbs down. Yeah.